Okay, we got sound. Hey, happy Easter. Pepper, what are you cooking? I can smell it from here. Hey, Keith. Let's see. Hey, David. For the title, I may change that later. It depends on what we talk about. But right, I touched my face already. You know, I should really get an endorsement from Starbucks. I own Starbucks stock though, so full disclosure. I bought Starbucks back in 2008 when the housing crisis happened. There were two industries that excelled during the Great Depression. And one was the movie industry, because people wanted to escape, and they wanted so many movies in the 30s were about rich people and people with money and people living the high life and all that. And the second industry surprised me, and it was beauty salons. The movies, I figured that might be the case, but beauty salons thrived during the Great Depression. And I think it was because it was a way to spend a little bit of money and make you feel like, better about yourself and feel rich. And so, because I thought, well, Starbucks is one of those things where, hey, I'm still doing okay because I still have my $5 cup of coffee. I'm still spending $5 on coffee, so I'm rich. Maybe it did pretty well. So anyway, hi. Oh, you're in Indianapolis, Ira? You go to school there? See, when I said ask me anything, I should have said ask you anything. I'm going to be asking you guys questions, maybe. That's what I'll do. You're here for the fellowship among yourselves. I'm serious. You guys should probably start a Facebook group and don't invite me. You can just talk about me or talk amongst yourselves. All right. Bruce, welcome. Hey, MMP, haven't seen you in a while. Happy Easter. Verdi, good to see you. Diane, of course. Frankie. Oh, we got all the regulars. Julius. Nice, from London. Very good. I was in London in 2014. I have a student from London that might log in. AMA, yeah, ask me anything. Yeah, it's a Reddit thing. First time I ever saw the term AMA, it was on Reddit. And I've threatened to do one of those on Reddit. But Reddit can be kind of weird and kind of, I'll call the group, I survived Tom Strahles's music theory course. Yeah, exactly. I just got a Facebook message from someone who just discovered me yesterday. Was it yesterday or just like last week or something? And he's already gotten through all 24. I think today's 26. I wrote 26 in there. Right? Or was yesterday? Wait, see, hold on a second. I've got this. I just have to, yeah, today's 26. So I can't believe we've been doing this for 26 days in a row. Hey, Rick, good to see you. Hook, there's David. Boy, everybody's here. You guys got nothing better to do. You need to get some lives. Kathy's here, of course. I know, right? We need to create some kind of certificate of graduation, completely worthless certificate of graduation. Although, this is all, the way I'm trying to teach it is I'm trying to make it. Oh, let me turn on the light. Pants confirmed. It's crazy, Julius. God bless you. That's hard work. And you can skip a bit. If I put the guitar down, you can probably skip. But a lot of times I'm writing things. So today I'm not going to do that so much. We're just going to So we started out on Cage, then we kind of morphed. We moved to modes, and then almost in some ways in Circle of Fifths and Chord Theory, Cage might have been something we would have done after modes. I might have, if I'd known it was going to go so long, I was just thinking, oh, I'll do this for a week or two. Modes would be Caged method would be a good lesson, because I have a lot of things I can teach on Cage that we didn't even get to. Yeah, Pepper, you're supposed to have tornadoes, right? So you stay safe. And then how's the weather in London there, Julius? You know who I teach guitar lessons to, or have, is Cruz Beckham, David and Victoria's son. The sweetest family, great, nicest kids, just great kids. They, I think, are in London. I'm not sure. I mean, I think a lot of people in London have gone out to the countryside, and if they have a place out in the countryside, that's what I would do. I would get out of the city if I could. If I was in London. Where I am, it doesn't feel like the city. I'm technically in Los Angeles, but Los Angeles is so spread out. We're basically feels like the suburbs anywhere else. Oh, that's awesome. We're supposed to get better weather in the next couple of days, but it's been unseasonably cold all spring. This whole spring has been very cool. We have not gotten any days really over 80. Usually we would have a week of 90-degree weather in February and one in May. I don't see it on the horizon. Not going to happen. Yeah, Pepper's in Alabama, I think. I forgot to turn on the light. Frank, is that going to be a fifth rule? Well, if it is, I'm going to have to put a post-it note over here so I can keep track, because I'm losing track of all these. I don't know, Frankie, that might have to be a fifth rule, or maybe it can replace rule number 4, because I don't think rule number 4 is going to happen again. No, standard tuning. So if I do any playing, let's see, what do I have? I got a track up, the same track I had up yesterday. Didn't really do any work. I did some stuff on it yesterday. Today I'm going to have to work on Easter. I got to get some work done. My friend Jim, who watched all day yesterday, and he's kind of self-isolating right now because he has a fever. I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm going to go get him after our lesson tomorrow. I'm going to go get him in and out, because we usually, whenever we do sessions together, we take a break halfway through the session and go get In-N-Out Burger. And so every time I think we talk, it's like I get a craving for In-N-Out Burger. And if you've never had In-N-Out Burger, if you're ever in California, Arizona, Nevada, they're not very far east. It's a privately owned company. That would definitely be one. If it went public, I'd buy stock in. I think I don't really like restaurant stocks, but I would buy that. Double. Oh yeah, Pepper knows. Double. That's what I get usually. Double raw onions. I love that. There's all sorts of secret codes. It's got a very, very simple menu, the same menu it's had for a very long time. Basically, you can get fries, a cheeseburger, a hamburger, or a double, which is two pieces of cheese and 2 burgers. Two patties. Oh, okay. MMP chat. Yes. Is it on your Facebook? I mean, on your you have a YouTube page, right? Is it on YouTube? Oh, right. You're on YouTube. I've seen you on YouTube. That's where I saw you originally. Let's see. Oh, it keeps buffering. I'm not uploading anything. We're not even using the TV right now. So Beth is going to go out and about and get out of the house. So let's see. You're in Essex. Oh, Keith, you're in Essex. Oh, very cool. I didn't know that. And Dennis, yeah, you're in Holland, which you said it's okay to say Holland. Okay. Dudron, you're outside there. Yeah, This is exciting. This is exciting television right here, folks. Me reading your texts, and you're actually not even talking to me. You're talking to each other. Oh, you're originally from Los Angeles. Yeah. I mean, all my kids are born here, so I'm pretty much a Californian now, I think. But yeah, I kind of grew up all over. Kind of moved quite a bit. So, anybody have any questions? You all sent your guitar picks with you playing. I didn't really see many. I don't. I wish I could drop a photo or something in there. Let me pull up that Facebook page. Yeah, I'm here. Let's see, Dennis. Oh, Dennis, you sent a photo. Yeah, there you are. Okay, I saw the photo of your guitar. Now I see the photo of you. That's awesome. Yay. I love that. So let me see if I can save this. Let's see. Save. Okay, I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this in a folder on my desktop that I've got the stuff for our lessons, live stream stuff, and I'm gonna put your name in there so I know. This is Dennis. All right. So I've got your photo now. Let's see. Deirdre, you didn't send me one. Jackie, you've sent me photos. Let me see if I have one of you playing guitar. Yeah, there's your. Okay, I'm saving that one. All right. And this is Pepper. Now, I actually have a friend who's got a daughter named Pepper. They're from out here. Okay, Logan sent me a picture of his guitars. Let's see. Chris, did you send me a picture of you playing? Holding your guitar? No, but you sent me your work. Oh, you sent me a video of you playing. All good. Let's see. So yeah, I've gotten a couple. And what I'll do once I have enough of them, I'll post them. Hey, yeah, I'll post them up on. I'll put them all up on my the Facebook page. We can all put if it's okay. Yeah, no worries, Hook. And I know some of you don't do the Facebook thing. That's totally fine. In fact, let me check I never check my Gmail account. Let me check that. Maybe some of you have sent it to that because I do have, that's the one that's associated with this YouTube channel. Nope. Oh, no. Yeah, well, Roger, I don't think you sent me a picture. Nope, doesn't look like it. So mostly just junk in that email box. Let's see. How do you keep your guitars clean mounted and exposed like that? I'm not very OCD when it comes to my guitars. So I'm not too worried about them getting dirty, dusty. I mean, I'll dust them off. I've got a little duster specifically for that. And like the strings get kind of nasty sometimes. If I'm going to be playing the guitar, if I'm going to be like, in fact, the Gypsy guitar needs to be restrung, and the Martin needs to be restrung, and I think it needs a neck reset at some point because it's starting to buzz too much. So those both need to be restrung. I just ordered new strings. Oh, in fact, I just got them. I put them in my closet. I've got to put new strings on my bass 6 because those are the strings that originally came with it, and they're not very good strings. So I bought a better set of strings for the bass 6. So I'm looking forward to changing that. But yeah, part of the reason I keep these out, I mean, the main reason I keep them out is because I'm using them, or I want to remember that they exist. Like the baritone, the bass 6, any acoustic that I have hanging up there, I use a lot. Those are always being grabbed. That's one of those cheap Squires I just got, and a couple new ones. And that I haven't done anything weird to that one. It's basically too normal. The black Squires down there that I've used on a lot of records. I actually started using this one too. They both sound really good. That's the Harmony that at the very end there, the vintage guitar that I just did a video on, and I love the way that sounds. And if I put it in the closet, I'd forget that I have it, and I'd be like, oh, I need something really lo-fi sounding. So, okay. So wait, are 2 question marks? No, quite 2 question marks. Oh, dang it! I did not. I can mute this. I can mute this. Let me pull up because I think I know what song it is, and then once I find it, so I'm gonna be patient with me 1 second. I'm pretty sure it's this one song. let me look at it again. So I'm going to mute for just a second so I can listen, because I don't want to get up any kind of copyright thing. So it's called Falling Away with You. I'll pull up the YouTube and send you the original. And here's the thing you guys can do too. If you're ever watching videos on YouTube, try, if you can, if you want to see a song, a band, try to find the one that is from the official band page, because then they make money from it. I'm not sure if like, here's their official. I'm pretty sure this is their official page here. So here's that link for that video. It's not, they didn't do a video for this song because it wasn't a single. Oh no, it's playing. Stop. Don't play. I don't want to get. And here's what's crazy to me is that there's probably 500 people that have uploaded that song and YouTube hasn't taken them down. I'm like, why? And maybe they're doing a royalty sharing thing, or maybe they're not allowed to monetize, but I can't tell you how many times, like, I pull up maybe an Earth, Wind and Fire song and somebody's uploaded it and there's an ad that plays and it's like not Earth, Wind and Fire. And they may have like 5 or 6, 7,000 subscribers. And you look and they've got millions and millions of views and they're making money on it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then they do a takedown notice for me because I did a chord progression that's the world's most common bluegrass chord progression for a jam track, and it says copyright infringement melody, and I'm like, there's no melody, it's just me jamming. So, hey, Karen from Allentown. I've been to Allentown, Pennsylvania. I have been to Allentown. I taught a clinic in Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1999, believe it or not. I think it was the last one I did for Maranatha. And it was the only clinic I did, I think 36 clinics in 3 years. I did 12 a year. Blackbird's not insanely hard. The funny thing is Beatles songs. Sorry, I'm going to tell you a story. Where's Diane? Remind me to tell the Allentown story. It's not really. It's just interesting. I love this kind of stuff, but it's not like amazing story. But Pepper, as far as Beatles songs to learn, well, Dennis, you know what? Yesterday is a lot easier than you think it is. Yesterday is not in F, it's in G. Paul tuned the strings down all a whole step. So it's not G, it's not E at Denny's Get Bad Eggs, it's D, G, C, F, A, D. So the guitar is tuned down a whole step. And so he's really just playing in G. So, he's actually, it's just G. It's not, that's the correct key, F, but it's actually, so it's actually very easy. But to play it in the right key, you have to have an acoustic tune down a whole step. Some of the songs that are fun to play are maybe like Day Tripper, ones that have hooks. Beatles songs, oftentimes they're on piano or guitar isn't really heavily featured. If you can do a bar chord, what's the one that's let's see. Is it? That one's pretty hard though, actually. I'm trying to remember what song the title is. Let It Be is easy, but it's not a guitar song. But yeah, Let It Be is just C, G, A minor, F, and then C, or A minor, G, F, C, or something like that. This is basically 2 sections. It's a very, very simple song. So you could totally play that one. And in C, the only problem is you have an F chord. So if you're having a problem with an F chord, then that's going to be an issue. Of course, I do have that video. A lot of you discovered me through the chord, the video I did, that darn F chord. this one here. Boop. And I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to, don't play it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, crazy. It's got 71 thumbs down. It's probably got the most thumbs down of any of my video. Well, probably my number one videos that got a lot of thumbs down. But this is the F chord video. And I did another one on B. Hey, Gary, how's it going? Yesterday, like I said, if you tune your guitar down a whole step, yesterday is very easy. And that's what Paul did. So I always played it. I always taught it in F. I didn't know he did that. And then one day I was listening to it and I went, wait a minute. Because it goes down to D. And I'm like, well, there's no D on the guitar, the low D. So yeah, so that's the secret. So what I would do is I would take the song as it is and transpose it up a whole step. And you'll go, oh, this is easy. And then you may not be able to sing it in G because it's kind of high, but it's a great song. I remember there was a story. There's a book called All You Need Is Ears by, and I'll put a link here. I'll even create an Amazon link where I get to make money if you buy it. Okay, how about that? All You Need Is Ears by George Martin. And I've read this book 3 times. In fact, it was yeah, this is the book. So if you buy it through this link, I make like, I think 5% or something. Isn't that crazy? You guys have been buying stuff on Amazon. Somebody bought a Fender guitar. I think I know who it was. Yeah, Joni Mitchell's definitely retuning. But that's in that book, All You Need Is Ears. It's kind of like, it's basically broken up into 3 sections. I've read the book 3 times just because I love it. But the first section is George Martin, his early life, how he got started, what he did. And then the middle third is all Beatles stuff and how he discovered them and all that happened. And then, or how they came to him. And then the last third is kind of everything after the Beatles, like Air Studios. He started Air Studios in Montserrat in London. So it kind of talks about that. But when he talked about yesterday, Paul wanted, this was the first time they'd ever used a string quartet. They hadn't really ever used string parts or string players on their songs before. And so I think it was maybe Paul's idea to put strings on. I can't remember if it was Paul or George's, but Paul was helping. George Martin had done a lot of string arrangements. That was one of the things he did. And so he was very, very schooled musician. And oh, it is in this message string. Oh, okay. Is it? The problem is some of those links won't show up because I didn't post them. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, MM. I'm not seeing a punch, but try it again. Maybe Kathy can approve it. Yeah, 2 question marks don't bother me, Kathy. But anyway, so Paul heard this melodic idea, and George Martin said, no, that's not in the key. You can't do that. And Paul's like, no, that's what I hear, and it's what I want for the song. And originally the song was called Scrambled Eggs, by the way. He just had the melody. He dreamed it. And it was scrambled eggs. How I really love your legs is what he sang originally. And so then he came up with the words. And that was another thing when he said, oh, I want to call the song Yesterday. George Martin said, you can't call a song Yesterday because there's a very famous song called Yesterdays and people get it confused. And Yesterday has gone on to become the most recorded song in world history. It's like in the Guinness Book of World Records as well history. But yeah, 1 chord song you could totally do all G. So the Presidents of America, but I need to tune all the strings down a half step. Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of bands tune down a half step. Van Halen does too. So anyway, when George did the string arrangement, he went ahead and did what Paul asked him to do. And then when he heard it, when he heard him do it and in the context, he was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it was one of those things where he was on the 4 chord and he wanted to hear the flat 7. And if remember the 1 chord has a major 7 and the 4 chord is a major 7, but Paul wanted to make the 4 chord a dominant 7th, like the 5 chord. And I think it was something like something like that, where he did the the 4 chord as a dominant 7th chord, and it just didn't. It was, you know, theoretically wrong. And George Martin was like, no, no, no. And then when he heard it back, he was like, oh yeah. It's like that story I told a while back about a few weeks ago, that when they were first recording and they were doing, I think it was Twist and Shout, and John was singing, and George Martin comes in and says, so are you singing the third or the flat third on this? He goes, John's like, what do you mean? What's a third? What's a flat third? And said, well, sing this note, sing, you know, and Twist and Shout's in D. And so it was like, you know, sing a major third, you know. And so they re-recorded, they redid it, and John sang the major third, you know, the F sharp, like a trooper, like he was told. And George Martin goes, no, that's not right. Okay, oh, it must be the F natural, so it must be the minor third over the F, so it's like a blues thing. And he played it on the piano, you know, here, sing this note, and Paul or John did it, and it was like, no, that's still not right. And so they determined that it was a note in between. So it was, you know, it was one of those things where you have these four kids that are basically just learned to play music on the fly in the real world. And then there was George Martin, who was this highly schooled, highly trained, worked only with professional musicians, producer. And the 4 of them, you know, the 5 of them coming together was just crazy. So, okay, let's see what else we got. Yeah, so yesterday's a lot easier if you tune down a whole step, because that's what Paul did. So it's not as hard. Whole step tuning is great for some guitars, indeed, and electric. You just may have to redo your intonation if you're going to keep a guitar tuned that way. Peaches by President. I don't know Peaches, Dennis, but Presidents of America, don't they play? Doesn't the guitar player play with a 3-string guitar? Like he just has the bottom 3 strings, and the bass player just has the bottom 2. Which is kind of in some ways brilliant, because it forces them to play low, and the vocals must really pop on those records, because the singing would be all above that. There would be nothing like the mixing. Mixing is just like, good enough. You wouldn't have to do a whole lot. You wouldn't really have to massage the guitars at all and the vocals and make everything work. Hey, William, how's it going? Good to see you. Hi, you kids. Yeah, I don't know. I bet I'm probably older. Well, I don't know. We're all pretty similar. I looked at the analytics of these videos, and I'm seeing you all are within like 10 or 15 years of me. So we're all on the same path here. Yeah, if you can have an extra guitar, David, you know, if you can have extra guitars lying around. I don't have any acoustics permanently tuned down a whole step. I do have a baritone acoustic that's down, of course, a 4th. And so if I capoed at the 3rd fret, that would be the same as tuning down a regular standard tuned guitar down a whole step. So if I take my baritone and put a capo at the 5th fret, that's standard tuned guitar. And I have done that before just for the effect, because, and it's a Martin, it's a big, you've seen the baritone. It's a big guitar. And it's got kind of a unique sound. And so when I put the capo at the 5th fret, it's tuned like a guitar, but it doesn't quite sound like a normal guitar. The strings are shorter, the strings are fatter, the body's big. It's got a very unique sound for that. So it's kind of a cool trick. I haven't used it very often. I may do that again soon. But yeah, now I think about it, if you had a baritone, you could just capo at the 3rd fret and play Yesterday in G, and it would sound exactly like the record. Or if you want, that's the beauty of the baritone. You can go down if the key of F is too high for you, then you just go down a fret and you'd be in the key of E, and that would help. Yeah, dadgad, chorus dadgad. You know, I don't have a guitar constantly tuned in dadgad. This is one of those G7 capos. I saw them at the NAMM show, and they gave me a couple capos, and then while I'm standing there talking to Tommy I met one of the guys there at G7th. When I was talking to him, my wife spots at the NAMM show. She goes, "Hey, that's Rick Beato walking by himself through NAMM." And I go, "I got to go talk to this guy." And Tommy gave me a capo to give to him. I said, "Sure, here you go." So when I saw Rick Beato, I said, "Hey, Rick, this is from G7th. They wanted me to give this to you." And he was like, "Are you kidding? Really? That's cool." He was like shocked. I'm like, "Really? Are you kidding?" I would assume people were giving you stuff all the time. But he's not known for his reviews of gear. Like that's something RJ does. And I think RJ, generally the guitars, I think he said something about, like somebody asked him, and he said the guitars he gets, this is crazy. This is my grandmother's nailing file. And it's the best nail file I've ever had. And my mom, when we were packing up my mom's house, I made sure I grabbed this because it was always like the best. And now it's mine. So I'm tuning right now in Dadgad. So you really only have to change 3 strings. My guitar's a lot sharp, but just the bottom string and the top string go down to D. And it's kind of known as a Celtic or Irish tuning. The other day, a few months ago, I did a video on double drop D, where you just drop down to 2. Sorry, let me adjust this. Got to keep up on that. Yeah, fingerstyle is pretty much, I mean, you could do strumming. One of my biggest, most popular videos is play most any song in Dadgad. And and I don't even remember what I did. It's like, I kind of showed a major and a minor chord, because you can pretty much, even jazz songs, technically you could take down to minor and major chords. I mean, it's a little boring and dry without the 7ths and the 9ths and the flat 5s and all that stuff. But most songs you can simplify down to major and minor chords. And once you do that, then you can just, all you need are 2 shapes in Dadgad. Now everything's going to be D-centric. Everything's going to sound like D. So I've got, so basically Dadgad, why is it not, there we go. I think the tuner's battery is about to die. So it's basically like having your guitar tuned in D sus. You got D, A, D, root, 5th, root. G would be the sus 4. And then A, you know what? I'm wondering, this is me thinking. This is me planning tomorrow. That's that face. You guys recognize this face, don't you? Oh yeah, you totally confirm pants. Yeah. And this is what gets us, I guarantee you this is the one that gets us the not appropriate for all advertisers, warning, because we've got pants, and the word pants are in there. I'm like, what's wrong with the word pants? It's better than the opposite of the word pants, which would be no pants. Okay. Yeah, I touched the face. Everybody take a drink. BMO wanted me to touch my face. Okay, David smoked 2 roll-ups since we started. You mix marshmallow in to reduce the tobacco. Are you kidding? I mean, I remember roasting marshmallows. That sounds really weird. I've never heard that. Let's see, Gary. Let's see. I honestly have the same problem. Oh, what's your problem? My 3rd year playing electric guitar. I'm really having a hard time keeping up with the record, and then I get lost. Can you give me an advice? Oh wait. Why are you asking Gary? Because I'm not answering questions. Yeah, we confirm pants, obviously. Let's see. Gary, what did Gary say? That I'm sorry, Karen. I missed. Really having a hard time keeping up with the record, then I get lost. Yeah, I mean, we all get lost. I think what you can do, I think a really good thing to do is start maybe put together a playlist on Spotify of blues songs. And you could even probably find somewhere on Google, if you Google blues songs in A or B flat, and you could have an entire playlist on your Spotify of blues songs in 1 key. And blues songs generally follow, and now, of course, now that I'm tuned in Dadgad, I talk about blues, but blues progressions generally follow the same kind of formula. I've got jam tracks too, so you can always jam along with my jam tracks, which are very boring and redundant. They just are repeats. Some of my jam tracks are just 2 chords. I have blues jam tracks. Let me post the link to the page where you can see all of them. Okay. All right. So playlists, and I got to do a search for the word jam. Too many playlists. Find jam. 3. All right, there's 3. There it is. Okay, so 72 videos here of many of them are modal jams, where it's like you're jamming on modes. So, but you can see there's like bluegrass ones, there's blues jams. There's the page there. So hopefully that will help you. It's hard to get lost in these songs because they're so simple, and that's kind of my point. Let's see. Yeah. The difference between so no, open D tuning would be the F sharp, David. Open D tuning would be D, A, D, F sharp. This is G, but F sharp, A, D. Open D minor tuning would be the F. You wouldn't call that open D. Drop D would just be lowering this string down to D, the E string. Double drop D would be the outside strings, which I really like for slide. I mean, I can play slide with but it's hard to play like a D chord. Hard to play a D chord, like what I want to play with slide and dadgad. Now the thing with dadgad is you've got basically a D sus chord. If you put your first finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, now you've got just nothing but D's and A's. D, A, D, A, A, D. If you want a 3rd to make it sound like a major chord, then you make sure you get rid of the G. You put your first finger down on the A to get rid of the G, and then you put your 3rd finger up here on the F sharp of the 4th string. So 4th fret, 4th string. And that sounds like D major. Or you could put that, and the thing is you got 3 Ds. So whatever you do to this string, you can do to the bottom string and the top string. So I could also put the F sharp on top. And that definitely sounds like a D major chord. Now, if I just put the F sharp here, only have one finger, so basically I'm playing 0, 0, 4, 0, 0, 0. That, okay, I stopped. When I stopped to think, here's what I stopped to think about. I thought maybe tomorrow we should talk about suspended chords. But this chord I would call, because this I would call a D4 chord. It's a D triad with a 4 added. Okay, this is a D suspended 4. So what that says, and see, that's the thing I would talk about tomorrow and try to explain. So Dennis, that sounds like a good idea. Because you're the one I think that was asking me about doing sus chords, and actually Verdi too. Have you tried a jet slide? It's a slide that doesn't stay on your finger, so you can use it off. No, I'll have to look that up. I'll Google it right now. Jet slide guitar. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. If I played slide a lot live, that might be kind of cool. Yeah, so that way, because I want to go to 9th chords, because you guys, the light bulb went off when you saw the 2-octave scale and you saw everything numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You realize, hey, 1, 3, 5, 7 is a 7 chord. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 is going to be a 9th chord. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so forth. So that I want to kind of continue to build on. I mean, we're going to get to 9th chords, but then I think after we do 9th chords, we're going to start talking about drop 2 chords, and making some simple, like learning 1 chord and then making some simple adjustments to it, things like that. It'll kind of blow your mind, and you'll be amazed at how actually easy it is to find like an A7 flat 5 sharp 9 or an A7 sharp 5 flat 9. Be like, wait, oh, how in the world would I play that chord? Well, it's actually not that crazy once you know a couple things. So, but we have to get to ninth chords first. So we're going to do ninth chords, but maybe tomorrow I will do. Well, yeah, we did. David, you're asking if we're going to go to other keys. There's a video of Dolly Parton. Oh, yeah, I actually didn't. I share that video where she's on Johnny Carson. She plays an open. That's an open. She's in open. I forget what key she may have been open E. I think she tuned up to E. So she tuned 3 strings up. But see, that's a really cool sounding chord in Dadgad because you got that F sharp to G thing happening. But that's not a G sus chord. A D sus chord. That's actually a D, what I would call a D4 chord. And I want to explain what I mean by that. Yeah, I think she's playing open E. As far as other keys with the 7th stuff, maybe. What I might do is, as we do the drop 2 chords, I might bring in different keys or something like that. It depends on how deep we get into it. I mean, I don't know how long we're going to be doing this, but the drop 2 chord thing is cool because you can very easily play a 2-5-1 progression in any key, in a very small area, which is great. That's one of the tricks to playing guitar, particularly in the studio. Because when you're playing in the studio, if you're reading a chart, and I showed you some, like, for example, when I played this was for a commercial, for like an infomercial. When I played this, basically what the composer had done is he had broken it into sections. So there were he made one song, and it was like 7 minutes long, but it had breaks so that he could chop it up. And instead of having 10 songs, he just had one song, and then he had breaks. And so there's a lot of stops in here, a lot of breaks, a lot of rests and pauses. So that always helps because you don't have to read for 7 minutes straight without making a mistake. Now here in my studio, by myself, I can always do punch-ins. And because I do that most of the time, my sight reading chops, as far as like not making a mistake for 7 minutes, are probably not very good. But what I would do is when, like this whole section here, and I'm not going to play it, but right now because I got a weird tuning. But this whole section here is a bunch of notes, but it's a very narrow melody. It's almost a very sing-songy melody. The highest note I see is an A. No, there's a B, and this B here. Let me change guitars. I'm going to put it away. So the highest note on the piece of music is this B, and the lowest note was in that melody passage, I think was just the B an octave below. But actually it was in D, so I just played it here. So the great thing was every note that I need is going to be here. So if I'm looking at the music, I really don't want to, if I look down at my hands, I'm going to lose my place on the music. Especially this chart, because I kind of made this chart from the MIDI. A properly written chart would probably have 4 bars per line. But because I did this on the MIDI, it just kind of, I could have set it to do 4 bars per line, but then when I had all these rests, it would just end up I would end up wasting paper, if that makes sense. So what I did was then you just find out what's the highest note, what's the lowest note, and then you don't ever have to look at your hands, because if it's you just read. And so then it just becomes a matter of keeping your eyes on the paper, keeping your eyes on the note, and not looking down at your hands. And that really helps you not get lost. That helps you, if you're trying to move all up and down the fretboard, you're going to probably make a mistake. So how did I get these gigs? No, I do not have an agent. No, it's just referral. Not even referral. I mean, seriously, when I moved here, I had no gigs. So it's just a matter of you're working with somebody. Maybe you're in a band with somebody, or someone new to town and they need a guitar player, and you get recommended and you work for them once. I mean, I used to say everyone I've ever worked for, I've worked for more than once. I've worked for them again because they were happy. And And so that's how you build client base. But eventually that failed to pan out. And there were a couple composers I've only worked for. I worked for them once, and it never happened again, just because either it didn't go very well. One of them was because my gear didn't sound very good and made a lot of noise, and I don't think he liked that. He didn't ever call me again. Sometimes I get called by composers because their main guy is out of town and somebody recommends me. And it's usually never another guitar player. It's usually a bass player or a composer or a drummer or something like that somebody that recommends me. And then the other one was, it was for a game composer, pretty well-known game composer, and he wrote music that was very, very hard to play, and he wanted me to come into the studio and play it live on mandolin and oud. And it's like, I don't think anyone could have done it. Even the best oud players, they don't tend to be the best readers. And so even the best mandolin, well, I know I've got some friends that could read like you wouldn't believe. Like George Deering could read anything, and this guy had used George Deering before. So when you're comparing me to George Deering, it's like, it's not a fair comparison, because George does nothing but sight read music all day with orchestras. He's sitting there in the hot seat all the time. So yeah, getting gigs, and that was, where was that question? Where was that? Who asked me that? It was Verdi, right? Oh, there. How do you get these gigs? Yeah. So basically, it's just building things, and then some of them, like Jim, I work with all the time, but Jim and I are writing together, so we're both working. We're not getting money now; we get money on the back end on our creations. But I've worked for him for a long time, and I just met him in our church. He's in our Sunday school class, and he brought me in on a session. And it didn't go horribly, and so he brought me in on another session and so forth. So that's kind of, you meeting other musicians. Guitar players are not likely. I mean, they may recommend you. I got recommended to a gig I wish I'd done. I wish it happened, but it didn't happen. My friend Joe DeBlasi, who I've talked about before, and I would love to do an interview with him. He is just post Wrecking Crew, but Tommy Tedesco, who was kind of the godfather of the Wrecking Crew, basically Joe would say Tommy Tedesco gave him his career. And Joe was playing with Paul Anka. He played for Paul Anka for years. In fact, if you YouTube Paul Anka rant, okay, if you go to YouTube and hit enter Paul Anka rant, oh my gosh. So he would, I don't know if it happened after every show, but after many shows, he would take the band back in the bus or whatever, and he would just lay into him. And he would just, he remembered, he's up there singing, he's put on a show and everything. If there was one mistake behind him, he would remember it and bring it up that night. And it was like, it's insane. So he's like rants, I forget, 10, 15 minutes. And would I do Pachelbel's Canon and D and Dagger? You could arrange it for that. I have never done it that way, but you could. I'm sure somebody has arranged it. So yeah, plumbers, that's true. Plumbers do recommend other plumbers. And Joe recommended me for this gig. So Paul, he played with Paul Anka for years. But this video, if you pull up Paul Anka rant, there are moments in the middle of the rant where Paul goes, "Where's Joe? Where's Joe?" And he's talking about Joe DeBlasi. Joe, and I said, "Joe, what's the deal?" And he goes, "Oh, I never went to those meetings." And they were mandatory meetings, but Joe never went. He goes, "Yeah, I didn't want to be yelled at for 20 minutes. So I just never went." And Joe told me, there's a couple stories, but anyway, Joe didn't play with him for years and years and years. And then they called and said, "Hey, Joe, would you start playing with us again?" And Paul would generally do like fly dates. Maybe he'd go out for 2 weeks, but fly dates are called, you fly to a city, you do a show and you come home. So oftentimes you're on a plane, maybe the day before, you spend a night in a hotel, you do sound check, rehearsal, and then you do the show, and then you go to the hotel, and then the next morning you fly home. So it could be like a 3-day commitment. And so Joe, Paul Anka was asked by Vladimir Putin to come to St. Petersburg, Russia, to play My Way. I Did It My Way, which Paul Anka wrote. Frank Sinatra did it, but it was a Paul Anka song, which is crazy. He's a very, very, very smart businessman, very, very good songwriter, great showman. But Joe didn't want to do it. because he didn't want to fly to Russia to do one song. It was like, I just don't, it's, and I think it paid, I forget, it was like $2,200 or something like that. So it was a decent paying gig, for what would have probably been 4 or 5 days out of town. Hey, Max, no worries. So anyway, so Joe recommended me, and the management was mad, or Paul was mad or whatever. And they said, no, we're not going to use Tom. And by the way, you're fired. And he didn't care. Joe didn't care. Joe didn't like doing the gig anyway. So what didn't matter to Joe, but, and they ended up calling somebody else for a recommendation. And then I think that guy got the gig or whatever. So, and Joe was even saying like, hey, if you do this, maybe it'll be your gig from now on. Oh, there's a question from Ed up there. Not sure if you mentioned this, but how many musical instruments do you play and how many do you have? I've mentioned, I don't. I have so many, I don't know how many I have. Let me tell you one more Paul Anka story with Joe. And in fact, I would love to have him tell this story. If I interview him, I probably have to have him tell the story. But they were doing shows in Vegas a lot. And Ed, I'll come back to that question here in a second. Were doing shows in Vegas, and of course there was, like, probably on a Saturday or Sunday there might have been 2 shows, right? So there would be an afternoon show and an evening show. And so Joe, like, after the morning show, he's so tired. After the afternoon show, like Saturday afternoon show, he's so tired he went back to his room, which is normal, and took a nap. And he set his alarm, but apparently it didn't go off, or it didn't wake him up or whatever. And it's like 5 minutes before showtime, and he's up in his room, and somebody comes pounding on his door and like wakes him up, and you got to get downstage. It's time to go on stage. And these shows are like clockwork. I mean, if it's 8 o'clock show, it's an 8 o'clock show. So this is like, so Joe was laying in bed in his tuxedo, so he hadn't taken his tux off. So he runs, takes the elevator, runs backstage, and they've already started the start of the song, and Paul Anka is out there singing this first song of the set, and then, or no, he's doing the intro. That's what it is. He's doing an intro, like, and maybe the band's kind of playing underneath, and Paul's telling a joke, some Vegas joke or something like that. And Joe's like entrance is over here, but his chair's over here, and he's running like behind Paul, and he trips on stage and falls face first and slides on his face all the way to his chair. And the audience, it just timed perfectly. Right at the end of Paul's joke, everybody roared, and Paul had no clue that any of that had happened. And Joe gets on his guitar, puts it on his playing, and the audience is just roaring. And Paul's thinking, wow, that joke killed tonight. It's a totally true story. So yeah, I know, I would love it, because Joe actually, crazy thing, Joe played on Pink Floyd's The Wall. And part of the reason I haven't done the interview now is because he's actually was suing them. And so he couldn't talk about that because he wrote a song on them and didn't get credit for it. We're talking millions of dollars here. And so that's one of the risks of, and I so there's a couple questions here that I saw that I'm going to talk about. But he was in the process of paying lawyers, and it was getting really expensive and all this stuff. So I don't know if he's going to finish up with that. So I'll find out where he is on that. And if he decides not to sue, then we can talk about that. But that was going to be literally, like, I was going to do like 4 10-minute segments. And that would have been probably one of the segments just talking about playing with that. And I forget who hired him. It was probably Roger Waters, not David Gilmour, but he played classical guitar, and I forget the name of the song. If I pull it up, I can probably tell you the name of the song, but it's one that starts with classical guitar, and that's Joe. And that wasn't unusual for them to use studio musicians on the later records, because they were like a lot of LA musicians on those things. So, and then Ed asked me about how many guitars or instruments do I have? How many instruments do I play? I mean, I can play good enough on a bunch of different instruments to fool most people. And I, like, for example, mandolin, banjo, dobro, things like that. For TV and film, I'm fine. For games, obviously fine. For a record, if you called me to play on a bluegrass record mandolin, I would give you someone's number. I wouldn't do it because I would be very underwhelming. So I don't want to oversell myself. But most of the time when you're playing in a game or a score, a TV score, or a movie score, something like that, it's not very intricate. Now, I did do this one thing, and it was insanely hard, but I was able to do it from home. And I didn't know how much it was featured until later. When somebody, one of you asked me, somebody was logged in and asked, did I play this? And let's see, it's me. Let's see, I gotta find me on YouTube. Yeah, here we go. I think it's here. So this, bookmark this and go back to this. But this is Austin Wintory. He's one of the best composers. I love working with him, but sometimes this stuff is really, really hard. And so you can listen to this, and I'm going to pause it so it doesn't play. Yeah. And it's from a game I don't know if the game is called Desert Fire or if that's, but this was, so I did some guitar and mandolin on this, and it was really tough. And I probably had to like learn phrases and then record it and punch in and do a lot of that. I was doing a lot of editing. So I doubt that I played much of this music straight through. Maybe towards the end of the session, because, you know, and the session for something like that for a game could be 5 or 6 days long, you know, 4 or 5, 6 hour days. It can be very exhausting. And some of these tracks, and when I listened back to it, I remembered, oh my gosh, I remember being so stressed because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'd have an email composed like, I don't know if I can do this. And I didn't send it. It was one of those things. And then I go, I got it. Okay, never, and then delete the email. But it's a Counter-Strike map. Is that what I don't know. I don't know what that is. So I don't remember the game. I think it was some game that Austin did. And it's from about 8 years ago. And I remember having to do much of it at night because I think it was summertime. And we were in the apartment building and there were kids swimming in the pool during the day and I couldn't record acoustics. So I had to stay up and like wait till everybody was asleep and do the acoustic stuff at night. So I wasn't getting any sleep for that week. It was pretty brutal. Yeah, memories. Exactly. So I play a lot of instruments. I like to say I play anything with strings and frets, but now I've been doing a lot of oud playing, but I would never say I was an oud player. So if somebody said, hey, I want you to play oud on an album of like Turkish music, I'd be like, no, call this guy. Although I have used oud on records, but more for a hip hop thing, you know, where I'm doing a lick and we loop it. And then like, that's an Irish bouzouki. It's basically just a big giant mandolin, you know, so anything like that I can add to my list. Bass, I play a lot of bass on stuff on the bass 6. So I have like on my email signature, I have a list of a bunch of instruments, electric sitar, but that's technically just a guitar, nylon flamenco guitar, ukuleles. I got one of my ukuleles at the shop right now, but of course, essential businesses are closed, so I can't get it. But I'm having it made fretless because I have a bunch of ukuleles. I had a double. I don't play kazoo. To play kazoo, you have to be able to sing pretty good because it's pitch based on your voice. So modest Tom, am I being modest? I'm way too awesome to be modest. Self-deprecating, maybe. Do a show with a guest. We want to meet Joe. Yeah, I've been talking about for a long time. There's a bunch of people. There's a guy named James Santiago that I want to interview. James has had so many amazing jobs. He's currently working for Universal Audio. He created the aux. I don't know if you know that aux box that you put. It's for amp to plug your amp into, so you can crank your amp and go right to a computer. And he also, my favorite pedal that I use all the time is the Sparkle Drive. He invented that. So he worked for Voodoo Lab for a long time. Still does. Also Chris Traynor, I would love to interview. He's the guitar player for Bush, and we've become friends. I would love to have stories with him about playing live and being a rock star and all that kind of stuff. So that would be a fun interview. I need to come up with questions for him. So yeah, I would love to start doing that. I'm not sure how I would go about recording it. I might need a second camera, and then do some more editing. So it might be more time consuming, and not as, I don't know how the view count would be on that, if it would be worth my time. I don't have any guitars I would sell. No, I don't sell guitars. I buy. So I never sell instruments because I've sold things that I wish I hadn't sold. So I don't ever want to look back and go, dang, I wish I still had that. So there's nothing I would sell. Now, my wife, when I die, my greatest fear is that when I die, she'll sell my guitars for what I told her I paid for them. That's my greatest fear. Let's see. There was another question. Okay, so Ed, and then as far as how many instruments do I have, I'm probably, all total instruments, probably 80, maybe. But I've got 6 ukuleles and I've got 5 banjos. So it's guitar wise, I probably have, because keep in mind I have a whole lot of cheap Squires. I think I have 10 or 9 or 10 of those. So I probably have 50 or 60 guitars, acoustic guitars. I have, that's a little bit smaller number. That's about 10 there, and then everything else is electric. So yeah, and yeah, Paul, let's see. So where am I? Plumbers recommend plumbers. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, as far as getting gigs, that's a whole nother video right there. I'm totally Pavlovian now. I touch my face, I take a drink. Everybody take a drink. Yeah, the question from Ed up there. There was another question. Thanks, Kathy. Okay. Ab, yeah, you're asking about the copyright. Yeah, I have many thoughts on that. For one thing, you can't copyright a chord progression, and that's what really ticked me off about the copyright strikes that I got on my YouTube channel for. Basically, I just was like, well, it was on acoustic guitar, but now I'm gonna get an infringement notice for that right now, which is insane, because nobody owns that. And so I may have to cut that out. So I'll be talking right now, and I'll be talking about this little bit of guitar that I just played that's not there anymore, because I'm going to have YouTube cut it out, because I'm not going to fight it. I don't want to fight too many at the same time, because if I lose 3, they take down my channel. But in pop music, like back in the 90s, like the six, I'm in the key of G, so the E minor is 6, the C is the 4 chord, the G is the 1 chord, and D is the 5 chord. So the 6, 4, 1, 5 was a very, very common chord progression. There were so many songs written with that chord progression back in the 90s. In the 50s, you had same 4 chords, but just in the different orders. 1, 6, 4, 5. Again, G, E minor, C, D. That's 1, 6, 4, 5. And then a lot of progressions now, like a lot of the common progressions now are 1, 5, 6, 4. Like all the pop songs all have the same chord. I'll write a song. It's funny because Justin, when he plays songs, sometimes he'll just use those progressions, even though it's nothing like what I did. When I did Home to Mama, it's just in D. It's 1, 6, 5, 4, and that's the whole song. It's just that one chord progression. So technically, no, I don't think you can copyright a chord progression. Now, do people sue for that? Sometimes, and it drives me insane. I really feel like that lawsuit against. There's a couple lawsuits that the family for what's his name, Marvin Gaye. It's like, people just get jobs. Stop, using your the family, the one family member in your family that actually amounted to something. Stop using him to pay, buy yourself Bentleys and mansions. It just drives me insane. I mean, it's just, I feel bad for anybody that got all these hangers-ons after they, make a bunch of money. It's just, I hate that. I feel bad for him. But anyway, Marvin's gone. I'm sure Marvin would not have sued not Alan Thicke, but his son, Robin Thicke, and Pharrell, because that was a loving tribute to, with, it's just crazy. So what song was that? The two songs, you know what I'm talking about, where they basically, it sounded like a party in the background, and they played the bass line, which was not at all the same as the Marvin Gaye song. I can hear the chorus. But they played the bass on I don't know if you ever seen those mini piano Rhodes. It looks like a Fender Rhodes, but it's like only 2 octaves. Those are like a bass Rhodes. So they played it on one of those, the bass line, which is the same as the Marvin Gaye song. They had a cowbell, but Marvin Gaye had one cowbell with a very specific pattern. And they had 2 cowbells with 2 different patterns that were not the same as his. And then they had a party in the background. And that was pretty much the only similarity. And the Marvin Gaye estate won. So what that telegraphed to the entire music industry is that you can copyright a production, a mix, a concept, or a group of instruments, an instrumentation. So Beethoven can sue, John Williams because he used the same orchestra configuration. That makes no sense. So that kind of stuff drives me crazy. And the other one was with the Marvin Gaye estate again sued, and they've sued so many people now. They sued Ed Sheeran because so he goes one, and I think the Marvin Gaye song is let's see. I think the Marvin Gaye song was one over first in version 1 G chord, which is G over B, C, D, I think, or the other way around. I can't remember. And then the other one was B minor. I think the Ed Sheeran one was the 3 chord. So G, the 1 chord, 3 chord, 4, but the drum beat was the same. Oh my gosh, you cannot copyright a drum beat. If you can copyright if Marvin Gaye, the estate can claim that drum beat is copyrightable, then who played drums on it? Did you give them a percentage of the song? So if it was just some poor drummer that did like a $200 session and never saw another penny after that, now probably the thing is, I could make that argument, but probably it was Marvin Gaye playing drums on it, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was playing the cowbell on the other song, because that was my argument. Well, if you're saying the cowbell pattern is copyrightable, did you give the percussionist a percentage of the song? Because if you didn't, then it's not copyrightable. You're admitting by not giving that musician a percentage of the song that it's not copyrightable. Well, I did some research, and it was Marvin Gaye playing the cowbell. So it kind of blew my potential argument out of the water, unfortunately. But they, dang, you guys got there's a lot of stuff here. I got to catch up. But the other one, the drum beat one, I'm like, seriously, that might have been Marvin Gaye playing the drum beat on that song. And then Ed Sheeran, but a drum beat, a boom, 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 that's on a million songs. So then Marvin Gaye estate would have to pay copyrights to every drummer or every artist that had a song before their song that did that. So, Paul did the English translation of My Way. Is that what you're saying? Oh, maybe that's right. So the original was French. Sorry. I just know his name is on the song, and that's why Vladimir Putin wanted Paul to come to Russia to sing it for his. I mean, that would have been pretty crazy to fly to Russia to play one song for Vladimir Putin. So okay, that's good to know, Dan. That makes some sense too, because I think maybe that song is a little bit older than. Let's see. Do you have an oud? Yes, I have an oud. Yeah, I play a lot of oud lately. Lately, I've been playing a lot of oud, but I'm not. Generally, when I play oud, I'm not using Turkish, Middle Eastern scales. I'm using very Western scales like minor, Phrygian, and then harmonic minor. Those are, Those are the most common. So yeah, and it's a cheap oud. I'm trying to find a good one. But it's very hard. There are no like oud stores in LA. I mean, I don't know how much I'd be willing to spend, but I did, before all this coronavirus thing happened, I was doing some hunting on Craigslist, and I went to a couple places and saw people that played ouds, and I realized they were just as cheap as my oud, and they were asking like $1,000, and I paid $300 for mine. I got mine from Lark in the Morning, which is a great. I can send you a link to Lark in the Morning, which is a great website for finding weird instruments. Yeah, just larkinthemorning.com. I know it's kind of a weird word, or weird name, but I think it's based on some kind of probably some poem or something that I'm completely unaware of. But anyway, Lark in the Morning is a great place to get weird instruments. And I'm going to get a bunch. After this is over, I'm going to try to spend a bunch of money, try to help the economy out a little bit. And because I know it's going to be a slow start for some people. And so I'm going to try to make sure I'm buying stuff not Chinese if I can help it. Sorry. Almost impossible with some things though. JHS, that pedal just showed, has a video on Voodoo Lab. Oh, yeah, and JHS will do mods on those. Is there a cigar box, a guitar in my future? Possibly. Yeah, it's awesome to be modest. Thanks, Chris. Possibly. I actually was thinking about getting, dang it, I almost ordered one. There's this guy that makes them in the US, and they're like $99, and it's a one-string slide guitar, and it's electric, and it's kind of a cigar box guitar. And I reached out to him on the email that was on the website, and I never heard back. And maybe it got lost in spam, or maybe it's not a good website anymore, because it looked like it was kind of old school. What is that called? What is the one-string guitar called? Because it's funny, because when I bought my Martin ukulele, Beth and I had gone to, I want to say Oxnard, and there's actually a guitar store there that I went to that I wanted to go to, and there's also a ukulele store there, and that just sells ukuleles. And I went to both stores, and I'm standing in in the line at one store to buy stuff, and this guy behind me says, "Hey, you're Tom Strahle." And I said, "Yeah." And I go, "How do I know you?" And he goes, "Oh, I watch you. I subscribe to your YouTube channel." And I went, "Oh, cool." It's like the third time I've met somebody that's seen, in public. And we started talking about it, and he was telling me about this guy that plays that. And I go, "Oh, I need to get one of those. That's a great idea. I should get one." And actually, I kind of paused on it because I thought, well, maybe Alex and I can make a couple of them ourselves, because you can really make it with a board, a guitar string, a pickup. If you've got an extra pickup line around, you can literally, I've seen ones that are as simple as that. You take it like a 2x4 and mount the string here and mount the string there, and you find a way to tune it, maybe mount a tuner if you have one. And then all you need is a pickup under there, and you can use a bottle, like a literal beer bottle or something, and just overhand it. And it's one string. It's kind of cool. Would be cool for effects. I kind of get that way. I do it anyway with slide, so it's not like it's not like I couldn't get that sound with something else I already have. Okay, so let's see. Cheers. Yeah, Ira. So yeah, I've done some plumbing stuff. When I managed an apartment building for 25 years in Pasadena, and it was a real blessing, I have to admit. There were times it didn't feel like one, and I'm so glad we're not there now in the middle of all this. But although my son Alex is doing it, God bless him. But again, it's a huge blessing for him, because he doesn't have to pay rent. So you're living in a very nice area without having to pay rent. And you don't have. I never had to fix anything. Talking about plumbing here, I never had to fix anything in the building. But if I could do it myself. And there were several things I could do, electrical and plumbing wise, that I could totally do myself. It saved the owner's money, which I always wanted to do. And it was a lot faster for the tenant, because if I had to place a work order, then that goes to the office, and then they call a plumber, and the plumber has to set up a time, and then I have to be around and make sure, and sometimes you wait for a plumber and they don't show up or whatever. So if it was something I could fix myself, then I would totally do it because of that. So I did get some job. I changed the faucet one time. I did that once, but it took me way too long. And getting underneath, I had the tool for it. Yeah, I bought the right tool. That's part of the key. but getting underneath the sink for it was about 4 hours to get that thing out and on. It was like, and that was a long time ago, and that faucet's still there. I know, so it's still working, but it's just crazy. So let's see. But it was a real blessing. It allowed me to stay in the music business, to be honest, not having to come up with rent every month. If we had bought a house or something, I probably wouldn't be doing this for a living. Oh, you want? Yeah, where's Joe 3 times? Yeah, Verdi's the video ended with him saying, "Where's Joe?" Yeah, that's Joe DeBlasi. It's like freaking awesome. Yeah, Joe is the one that told me about the Tommy Tedesco story where where Tommy had been the day before, had a rare day off, and he went to the beach and he fell asleep on the beach for 8 hours and got blistered. And then he shows up. I'm going to tell all of Joe's stories so that you will have heard them all when I do the interview. But when Tommy they did a full orchestra session. The guitar player's in the front, the orchestra's back there, and Tommy took all his clothes off except his underwear because it hurt. His skin hurt so bad he couldn't play. It was like, oh my gosh. Oh, Dennis, why so many guitars? Well, because hold on, let me make sure. Let me work my way down to that. Yeah, but okay, you saw the video. Anything interesting about the red telly? Well, the red telly's it's actually kind of copper, and that's a baritone. It's kind of cool because it's got 3 pickups, it's got a humbucker, but it's a baritone. It's tuned down a 4th. So the low string is a B. So I use it a lot for gung, 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 gung. In fact, I just used it on this track. I think you can hear it here for a TV show. Like here, this is the baritone. So that's the track that I did for like I'm working on. That track's done, but I'm working on a bunch of tracks for some Discovery shows, and so the car shows, so they like that, a lot of heavy stuff. So I use that baritone a lot. That's why it's out, because I have it. I need it a lot, so that's what's special about that. I have a couple tellies. I have a 54 reissue telly that is really nice, plays great, and Japanese reissue with Japanese Fender guitars are great, really, really good. Some of them are better than the American ones. The workmanship is unbelievable. And then I also have a Squier telly that I have tuned African style right here. This one. And African style is just the D strings up an octave. So it's for kind of getting a ukulele sound almost. And I did that just to get that kind of for African sound. I literally got a session for that like 2 weeks after I did it, and I brought it for a South African singer, and I pulled that guitar out and used it on a track. And he's like, "How did you know how to do that?" And it was something I read in Guitar Player magazine. I probably should get Guitar Player magazine again and start reading cover to cover, but so easy to do research online now. It's almost easier. So Chris is like, "Why so many?" I mean, Dennis is, "Why so many?" Chris is, "Why not?" Generally, I don't have. There's not a lot of redundancy in my collection, except for the Squier Strats. But that's because I have so many, so I can leave them tuned weird ways or strung weird ways. But it's kind of one of those things where you will literally have a producer say, "Yeah, so bring your Les Paul for this session." And if you don't have a Les Paul, I actually had a producer tell me to bring a Les Paul, and I had to borrow one from my student. So I pretended like I had a Les Paul. He goes, "Yeah, bring your Strat and your Les Paul." Just the assumption by producers that you have all this stuff, for one thing. But then, in fact, I may play this one. Maybe tomorrow I'll bring it out. I have I have a Rickenbacker 12 string. I won't use that one for a lesson. But I bought a Rickenbacker 12 string because people will call you and say, "Hey, we're doing a Beatles sound alike. So, bring your Ricky 12. And I'm like, "Oh no." So I got a really good deal on it. My friend that had a guitar store gave me a great deal on it. So I got a nice Rickenbacker 12 string for that Beatles sound. But then I got a call for another Beatles session. I thought, you know what I should get an Epiphone Casino, because the Beatles, that was the main electric guitar they played. I mean, you see them play. I've seen George play a Les Paul, Strat, a Telly, but for the most part, they're playing. They had at least two Epiphone Casinos. So I bought an Epiphone Casino, And to be honest, I just never used it. And that session that I bought it for, that they were like, oh, we're going to do a Beatles thing. I'd never worked for that person before, and they canceled the session after I bought the guitar. And then like somebody like, you know, I was like, I could return it because I just got it. I bought it at Sam Ash. It was brand new. But I said, nah, forget it. And I actually had to call around to a bunch of places. I had to drive out of my way to buy this guitar. And I don't think I've made my money back out of that one. But you know, you've got to have a Les Paul. You've got to have a Strat. You got to have a Tele. I'm a Strat player, so I've got a couple Strats. I bought another Strat because somebody donated it to church and they were selling a bunch of stuff, and I said I'll buy it from the church. So I have this other Strat that I probably never would have bought in a million years, but I bought it because it was a way for me to donate money to the church and get a 1980 Fender Strat, and it's an okay guitar. I mean, I do have a series called that I started, Why So Many Guitars? It kind of answers that question. And so I'll put a link here for the playlist. Why? Here we go. It says 19 videos in there. So far, I've done 19. With the acoustic instruments, it's kind of one of those things where I didn't get my first acoustic guitar until I was 30. I had a classical guitar, but I didn't really ever play steel string acoustic, which is funny because most of my sessions, so many of my sessions right after that I got hired as an acoustic guitar player. So it really wasn't something. It's just like Snuffy Walden, who did the music for the Wonder Years. That's such an iconic acoustic guitar Wonder Years thing, but he was like a jazz guitar player. He didn't even have an acoustic. He borrowed an acoustic to play the theme for Wonder Years, and then he went on to, like, at one point, I think he was scoring 12 different shows at the same time, including like West Wing. So Snuffy, it's like, and so I started getting a lot of calls to do acoustic stuff, which is kind of cool. So my first acoustic guitar was did I put the link there? Yeah, I did. My first acoustic guitar was let's see, where am I here on this chat? I'm trying to keep track of things. Blurred Lines. Thank you. That's the song I was trying to think of. Oh yeah, the Katy Perry one is also really, really stupid, and they settled. I really think that was like, you can't copyright a minor scale. I mean, that's just ridiculous. There's some great mashup videos on these things where they talk about. One of the people that I think he agrees with me is Rick Beato on this stuff. So my first acoustic was the Gibson Dove that you've seen me play. It's off and out here. And then I didn't get another one. See, that would have been, I was 30. So that would have been 1991. And then I didn't have another acoustic because I really didn't know. All acoustics at that point in time, to me, all steel string guitars sounded alike to me. It's like, oh yeah, that's the acoustic guitar. Then in 1997, I got the gig with Maranatha Music, and I thought, well, the Gibson Dove, I really don't want to take it on the road, and it's the pickup's kind of intermittent. It doesn't always work. So I thought, well, let me go and buy another guitar for the road. And that's when I bought the Loudon. And you may have seen me play that one. And I talk about all the acoustic ones on my Why So Many Guitars playlist. And the Loudon I bought to do the clinics. And then lo and behold, like literally a week later, they call me from the office and say, hey, Bob Taylor wants to give all the guitar players a Taylor. Which one do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know Taylor guitars at all. I said, what is everybody else getting? And they said, everybody has chosen the 814 CE. And I'm like, okay. So then they literally, like a couple days later, I got a box of FedEx with a Taylor, really, really nice Taylor guitar. So then I went from having one guitar and then like 7 years, no other guitars. And then like within a week, I had two more. So I had 3 acoustics. And then I bought that Martin, and I tell the story about that. I got that Martin after I did a session. I think I had 3 acoustics, and I did the session, and the engineer, not the producer, was saying my guitars were too bright. And I'm like, really? Well, I knew Martins were darker guitars, so I went out and bought a Martin guitar because I figured, okay, I need something and I started to notice a difference, and I started hearing records and I go, oh, that's a Martin. Oh, that's a Gibson. Oh, that's a Martin. It's basically one of the other on any old records. And so that's so the acoustic thing is more, even though acoustic guitars are kind of the same, it's really, they're all made differently. They're different woods. I have another Martin that's a 1924 Alcoa Martin, so it's almost 100 years old. And that one's a slot head, and it's a short neck, and so it's a really I wanted to get a slot head guitar, has a smaller sound. It's a great strummer. And then I got the Gibson folk singer, which is also very different sounding than the other Gibson I have. Much smaller guitar. It's kind of a student guitar, and I got that for doing a session. So I did 2 days on a record, and the guy gave me a guitar. So so that's have I ever met Rick Derringer? No, I have not met Rick Derringer. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I have more guitars than my wife has pairs of shoes too. Oh, while living in Maine, Chris. Okay, that's a good question. Sorry, I'm taking way too long to answer some of these questions. Okay, so let me talk on that. Okay, I'm going to give you another playlist. I'm sorry, I'm totally self-promoting myself here, but start here and go. Just take yourself to college for 20 videos. I got 21 videos. There is in Maine. Yes, one of my videos. What I do with my videos here on this subject, and they're hugely unpopular. I mean, they've got hundreds of views. Some of them have thousands of views, but not many. But the playlist is called "The Business of Making Music," and that kind of makes people bristle. But really, my thing is that look, if you can't make money at it, you can't do it full time. You got to be able to make money at it. So a lot of my videos there are hard truth videos, things that like they would never tell you in music school, ever. The first video itself is, are you sure you want to do this? Basically, and I don't really go into the heartbreaks and the travails of the music business, but I talk about, maybe this isn't the job for you kind of thing. And you need to be open to that. My career path has changed as doors opened over here and doors closed over here. And that's what you got to be aware of. You can't keep knocking on doors that close. If doors open over here, you got to go through those doors. And so that's how I ended up leading worship at churches. I started doing church gigs mainly because those were doors that were opening, whereas the session work that I really wanted to do, that just wasn't happening because I didn't know how to make it happen. It had to happen organically. Nobody's path is the same. But I think in that video, I actually give the example of L.A. Reid, who was a drummer in Seattle. In Cincinnati. And he wasn't as good as all the other drummers in town. He was like an R&B funk drummer, and he wasn't doing very well. And he really wanted to be a drummer, but he was having zero satisfaction with it because he wasn't working. And so he figured out that he actually had a lot more success when he started managing bands in Cincinnati, and he started helping them make money and getting them paid and getting them gigs and stuff like that. And he's like, wow, I have more of a business mind than I thought I did. And then he met Babyface, who went to my high school in Indianapolis, and they became Babyface and L.A. Reid and started writing songs for pop artists, moved to L.A. and all that stuff, and just blew up. They ended up becoming major producers, had huge #1 hits in the late 80s and throughout the 90s, even into 2000s. And then L.A. Reid went on to become an artist development guy, and he ended up becoming, I think, the president of Epic Records. And I mean, he's a big wig now. And I've met L.A. Reid. I've met him. I actually did I wasn't auditioning, but I was accompanying 3 sisters that were auditioning for him in New York City. Flew to New York City for one day just to do this audition for L.A. Reid, and then flew back. And they got signed. They got signed. So that was pretty cool. So it paid off, but they ended up, of course, the record never came out. That's the story of most of these kind of things. So that's the question about so many. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up here. Let's see. Yeah, the Squires are great. I just love them because I can do stuff to them. Have I lost or damaged an instrument? Yes. I have. Have I damaged? I've lost one. Broke my heart. Oh, in fact, we talked about him a couple days ago. Let me tell you that story. I don't want to tell sad stories though. Oh my gosh. Wait, let me just get it. Yeah, 50% of pop music is the same chord progression. Exactly. In fact, Rick Beato talks about that. Blurred Lines was a song. Thank you for remembering that. And Thinking Out Loud is the other one. You're right. Fair use is really reserved for teachers in the classroom. I can't use it. It's not fair use because technically I'm broadcasting right now, and so that I don't disagree with that. So that's why I do not teach specific songs. I'll leave it to other guys to take that chance. I won't do it. Let's see. Oh, whose birthday is it? M. Jackson. Oh, Michael, is it your birthday? Happy birthday. Yeah, blurred lines. Yeah, unfortunately, I wish it were fair use. Yeah, and so, but it's still, you can't copyright a chord progression ab. I don't think, even if in inversion D over F sharp. So one of them used, I thought, the 3 chord, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't know about that Lotus, Rick, about the Lotus Intel Microsoft decision. But definitely, I do think the courts some of these things need to be pushed all the way to the Supreme Court, and they need to definitely say, look, you know, I mean, Paul McCartney said we nicked from the best. They admit that they were stealing from everybody. They were stealing chord progressions, and so "A Lark in the Morning" is an English folk song. That explains why they called the place "Lark in the Morning." But that's a great little store. That's where I got my oud from. I think I've gotten a couple of little instruments from them. Happy Easter to you. Oh, hey, Jeff and Lisa Myers. Oh my gosh. Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I'm not doing a lot of guitar teaching today. We're just talking today. So in fact, Jeff, if you're still there, this predates us playing together. Jeff played in a band with my wife and I for several years. A band called Rumors of War. I had a band called Rumors of War, not a band in high school. We have a drinking game. If I touch my face, if I say I had a band in high school called, if I refer to myself in the third person, which I only do if I feel like you guys need to take a drink, and if I pick up a guitar and don't realize it's in a different tuning than standard. All 4 of those things, those are reasons. We had another suggestion. Oh, if I forget to turn on my light, that happens almost every day. So I don't know. That's a freebie. You can pretty much that's like the middle. That's the middle box on a bingo card. You can pretty much start the video with a sip. Okay, just so you know. So let's see. Bayou oil can guitar. It's something like that. I forget the name of it. There's a 1-string guitar that I can't think of. Gent guitar. No, that's a different thing. That's like those 800 string guitars. Those are crazy. I just discovered those and been watching some of those videos, and they're captivating. But and I kind of use the baritone in that way because I can at least get down to like I have a 7-string. So I've played some 7-string guitars. I'm not a fan. I'd rather just play a baritone than have a 7-string. And I'm not playing in a band, so I don't need that kind of range. But I was going to tell you, so somebody asked me if I ever lost or had a guitar stolen or broke a guitar. I don't think I've ever broken a guitar beyond repair. Typical for Gibsons, the headstocks can snap off on a Gibson, like a SG. Oh, that's the guitar that spin back. Where's my SG? Oh, my SG is in my gig bag. That's what I'm like. I haven't seen my SG in a while. I'm like, where did I put that? I need to get that out because I love that guitar. I just bought that one too because I never had an SG before. But back in 1984, I had a student, Andy, who he wanted money. Oh my gosh, he needed money. He wanted to buy. So this is right, like this would have been 84, 83 maybe. Thriller came out, and Michael Jackson did the video for Thriller, and he's wearing that red leather jacket, right? So this student of mine wanted to buy one of those red leather jackets, but they were $800. This is 83. That's a lot of money. So he said, would you be interested in buying my Stratocaster? He had a 70s Strat and my reel-to-reel. He had a 4-track reel-to-reel. And so I said, sure. But I didn't have $800. So I borrowed $800 from my stepdad. I was living in California. And I bought both of those things. And the guitar Andy had bought from Caleb Quay. He's the one I told you about the other day that worked. He's from England, London. He went in high school. He was working at Dick James Music, and he was kind of a runner. and he would oftentimes run from Abbey Road Studios to Dick James Music, like take his bike. He would take master tapes from Abbey Road Studios and bring them over to Dick James so they could do piano takedowns. Okay, because back in the 60s, 50s, before, you know, even into the 70s, the big part of publishing, the biggest income for publishers was sheet music. So they wanted to have the sheet music ready, so when the record came out, they had sheet music too. And so I told you the story about Caleb, and Caleb called his friend and said, "Hey, I got this master tape from the Beatles. Well, let's listen to it." So they actually got the master. He was supposed to go straight to Dick James, but he stopped at home first with his friend Reggie, and they listened to Sgt. Pepper's. They were the first people to ever hear Sgt. Pepper's, and his friend Reggie was Elton John, and so Caleb went on to play with Elton John, in fact, this guitar that Andy got from Caleb and sold to me had been used on Elton John songs. And I was in a nightclub in LA in 1984. I was at a place called Madame Wong's West. A lot of famous bands. The Clash had played there. The Police had played there. It was a very well-known place, and they had like 3 stages, and they literally would have 9 or 15 bands a night playing this place. And I played a set there with this guitar, and then we packed up our stage because the next band had to go up, and we put all our gear to the side of the stage, and we talked to friends, and I literally was away from that guitar for 10 minutes, and when I went back to pick it up and all my other gear, it was gone. So I only had that guitar for maybe a year, and I have, I think, 1 or 2 sessions that I did with it that I have on cassette tape somewhere, and it had the greatest out-of-phase glassy sound. Andy, I think, had the pickups waxed, which I think it's they take the pickups out and they dip them in wax and then put them back in, so they were like really quiet. It was a very quiet guitar for a single coil. It had a 3-position switch on it, and I didn't meet Caleb until years later. And I in fact, it was at Pee Wee's house, and I was at Pee Wee Michiko's house, and I met Caleb, and I said, "Hey, do you remember the Strat that you used to have? It was a Sunburst, and I don't even think I have any pictures of me playing with a maple neck." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And I said, "Yeah, I bought it from Andy." He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember Andy." And I said, "Yeah, it got stolen like a year after." He goes, "Well, you don't want to know what songs I played on." I said, "No, don't tell me what songs it's on." You know, the sad thing is that the person that stole it has no idea the history. And I still have the neck plate because Andy had taken the neck, turned it into a 4-bolt. And so the 3-bolt plate wasn't any good. So when I was leaving Andy's house with the guitar, he says, "Oh, wait a minute, you might want this." He had the back plate on his keychain, and he took it off his keychain and he handed it to me, and I went, "Oh, that's a good idea." So I put it on my keychain. It's still on my keychain to this day. So 84 to now, that's like 36 years. That predates me even knowing Beth. And definitely before I knew you, if Jeff is still watching. So that's the only guitar I've ever had stolen. Your business is HVAC. Yeah, you're never going to be without work. I guarantee you that. Hey, John, nice. Yeah, why not? Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Basic wrench. Yeah, a good wrench you can't beat is very helpful. Let's see. Oh, man, that jumped down really quick. David's already gone, I'm sure. Pepper. Oh, just listening. Oh, Storm causes migraines. Oh, yeah, I understand, because of the barometric pressure. I hate that. You know, when I have migraines, I take, I drink coffee. Caffeine's good for migraines. And then Vanquish is basically aspirin with caffeine in it. Any aspirin with caffeine in it, it's going to help too. It's like you're hitting it from 2 different places. Let's see. I prefer a good mid-range mellow sound is my goal for acoustic. Yeah. My acoustic wise, I see guys that have like a bunch of the same kind of guitar, and I'm kind of like, I don't understand that. They're just collectors. I see guys that have like 10 Les Pauls, and I'm like, they just love Les Pauls, and I get that. They're kind of like they're like stamp collectors. Every guitar I buy is for a purpose. The Paul Reed Smith that I was playing the other day, the reason I bought that, I'm not a big Paul Reed Smith fan, and that guitar is beautiful workmanship. It plays great. It's super light. It's fun to play on stage, but it's too noisy because it's 2 soap bars, which are single coil pickups. But I didn't have a soap bar guitar, So I bought that one just to have the soap bars. That's kind of why I bought that Harmony, because it has those the De-Armond gold foil pickups from the 60s. And they have a really kind of cool, hollowy, lo-fi sound that I like, and I can't get from any other guitar. So Rick G, you've got Michael's just hanging out. Let's see, any recommendations on a budget acoustics it's really tough. The $300 to $400 range, people really swear by the Yamahas. I've never owned a Yamaha, but some of the workmanship on those Yamahas are pretty good. So for a cheap guitar, also, you might get better recommendations here. And there's Acoustic Guitar Forum, I think it's called. You can go there, and there's probably a huge number of forum posts about that. My friend Mark Wine has a really good. Let me give you a link to Mark Wine's forum, or Ween. I'm not sure how you say it. If it's Mark Ween or Mark Wine. Copy. Okay, so you'll have to log in. But this is a great forum. You can ask that question there. I think you'll get an answer there. You can say that. You can tell them that I recommend it. And then, you go with the bigger name brands like Martin, Gibson, Taylor, and they're going to cost more. You can get entry-level Taylors and Gibsons, but the baby ones are going to be in the $400 range anyway, and those aren't really full-sounding guitars. Let's see. Madame Wong. Oh, you remember Madame Wong on the strip? Yeah. Gazzaris. I will remember. I never played Gazzaris. So let's see. Oh, what? Hook, what did you Hook? You had you had Ovation. Oh, you had, okay. Yeah. The headstocks, I've seen headstocks break off. In fact, at my guitar tech shop, for a long time, he had a Gibson Les Paul with a headstock broken off, hanging on his wall. So let's see. Yeah. Takamines aren't bad. They're not bad. The Fender Acoustics is really trying to make them hard for Micah Martin. Yes. Formica Martin. What's a Formica Martin? I don't know about those. Seagulls are cheap too. I actually have been wondering if I should get. Yeah, they do. Mexico does have a made in. In fact, I think the Baby Taylors are made in Mexico now. But I've been thinking about getting maybe a couple cheap acoustics for weird tunings. I have 3 Martins now. I think I have that baritone, which is huge sounding. And it's that guitar is cool. I don't even know what it's worth because it's a prototype. It's the original Martin baritone. They sent it to me to give them my opinion, and I never sent it back. I ended up having to buy it from them, but they gave me a great deal. So I'm like, no, I'm keeping this. And they go, okay, well, you're paid this much. So on the inside, doesn't even have a serial number. This is prototype. Art and Luthier. I've never heard of that, but I think there's another company. Is it who? Somebody just mentioned it. The Breedloves are not made in Canada, but what's the one? Seagulls are made in Canada, I think, right? So, and Seagulls are, the main thing you want to try to get, if you can, is not a laminated top. If you can get a solid spruce top, that's a good start. And so you're gonna pay a little bit extra for that. But I think Seagulls are solid spruce tops, I think. But you can get really cheap guitars that are going to be laminated tops. You probably want to avoid those. So let's see. I missed some other questions though, didn't I, Kathy? I don't even know if Kathy's still there. Oh, Kathy, you're giving a sad face for Pepper. Oh yeah, and that jacket. That's funny, Dean. That jacket that Andy bought. I talked to him later about this. He wore it once. He wore that jacket. I gave him $800 for a really nice Strat and a reel-to-reel, and he bought the jacket and he wore it once. He goes, I wish I'd never sold that guitar. And I said, yeah, I know. I told him I wish I never lost it. Consequently, I've been very, 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 very cautious. Tom has been very cautious with gear. Tom never leaves gear in the car. I've always bought sedans. Well, I had a wagon for a while, but I would never leave gear in the back of a wagon anywhere. I would not go to a restaurant. I'd go straight home, unload the gear, and then if we're going to go out, I'll go out. But I'm not. Yeah, I would never leave gear in a car. In the trunk of a sedan, yeah, I don't think anybody generally goes around parking lots randomly popping open trunks. That's not going to be happen. So that's kind of why I started driving sedans. I mean, my last 3 or 4 cars have been sedans with a big giant trunk. I actually literally will buy the car that has the largest trunk. That's why I'm a little hesitant to buy the Tesla, even though the Tesla has a front trunk. You really can't. I can't put much in the front. It's like I could get a Marshall head in there or a mandolin maybe, but I can't get a full guitar in the front. It's not that big, and the trunk isn't that big. And everybody says, "Oh, you can put the seats down." Yeah, but if you put the seats down, you can see what's in the car, and it tinted windows. So I just don't really want to risk it. So, but I'm not doing too. When I go to do sessions, I'll fill up my trunk, my back seat, and my front seat with gear sometimes. But then I'm going straight to the studio. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. The second engineers and the gophers come down and help me load all the gear into the studio, and then I'm eating at the studio. They're like send off for food, and they bring food in, and so I don't have to go to eat afterwards. And then when I'm done, they just help me load it back up, and I take it home. And then that's the pain, is you getting home late at night. One time Bieber called me at midnight. I was in bed. I was asleep. But I knew he was in the studio, so I had my ringer on, and he called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, whatever you tell me I'm doing." The beauty of it was it took me, once I loaded my car, it took me a minute. But once I loaded a car, I think it took me 11 minutes to get to Hollywood from Pasadena. 11 minutes. Normally that would take like an hour and 11 minutes or more. But it took me, because it was midnight on a weeknight, it took me 11 minutes. We recorded till about 4 or 5 a.m. And then I came home and I was starving, because at the time there was a lot of, how shall we say, there was a certain aroma in the air. And I wasn't partaking, but you kind of can't help yourself because it's just in the air, what they call it, a contact connection. And so I'm driving home. It only taking me 11 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I am starving. And so I pulled drive-through on the way home and got the greasiest burger and fries. And I'm like, I'm just going to pay for this. And I got home and I unloaded the gear, which is a pain. And then I eat the food and then I go to bed. And it was the next day was brutal. Okay, I'll check it out. Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, and the thing is, I've seen those where you can replace the pickups and stuff. The thing is, there's something about, like, if you put telly pickups in a Strat, it doesn't quite sound like a telly. You know what I mean? And when I'm doing recordings, like somebody said, "Oh, we want your telly, bring your telly, or we want a country sound or whatever." So I, bring the telly to do the country things. And like if you put Strat pickups in a Les Paul, because the wood's different, surprisingly, everything's different. It's not going to quite sound the same. So I'd rather just get. There are guitars that I don't have that I need to get. Like, for example, I do not have a Gretsch of any kind. So at some point, I would like to get a Gretsch. But I always think, should I get a vintage 60s Gretsch, or should I just get a brand new one? Because actually the old 60s Gretches are kind of fragile and kind of fall apart. And one of the things I've been told by people in the know, my good friend Scott, who's a guitar collector, he was a guitar trader for years, and he had a store in Pasadena for a while. He said, make sure you check the binding on the neck, because a lot of times the binding is missing, or especially, you can't see it, they've replaced it, or it's cracked, or, the binding on Gretsch necks for some reason wasn't done right for many years. And so that's one of the issues with them. Vintage guitars can kind of be, have issues, and so I thought about getting a new Gretsch, but they're not much cheaper than a vintage one, to be honest. A good Gretsch could be $3,000 or whatever. You can get a vintage Gretsch for $4,000 or $5,000. So I don't think I've ever spent $5,000 on a guitar. But I've got friends that will spend $25,000 on a really nice Strat or old Strat or more, or spend $25,000 on a really nice archtop guitar, brand new. It's crazy. I have a friend that spent $9,000 on an acoustic, and I just can't justify it. I am not into cars or motorcycles, Chris. I just don't care. The first car I've ever really took any interest in was a Tesla, because it doesn't have a crankshaft, it doesn't have an oil pan, it doesn't have an exhaust, it doesn't have belts, it's literally like two motors, electric motors, which you remember slot cars, even kid, those electric motors, they'll never break. They'll last forever. But the cars, we always buy Volvos because they're safe, and we had a really good Volvo mechanic in Pasadena, so that was kind of why. Now we've moved away from Pasadena, so probably my next car will be a Tesla Model 3. I'd love to get a Model S, but I'm probably going to buy a Model 3 for my wife, because she's the one that does all the driving. So, and she doesn't really, she's not a car person either. So, and motorcycles, no. Everyone I know who's owned a motorcycle has had an accident, a bad accident. So I have no desire. And I mentioned this the other day, I'm blind in one eye. So I have no depth perception. Now, in my first band in California, there was a guy named Eric, and I had a band with Scott, Eric, and Kirk, and the four of us had a band. And Eric didn't get his driver's license in California. This is so weird. He didn't get his driver's license until he was 21. And his dad had a 57 Chevy pickup truck, like a really old, and that's what Eric drove. And we're getting on the freeway, and we're on the ramp, and he's just gotten his license, and he's tailgating a Pinto. Dude, never tailgate a Pinto. And I said, dude, back off a little bit. And he looks at me, he goes, I thought you didn't have any depth perception. And I said, yeah, but I have death perception. That was pretty fast. I'd never thought of that before. And I was like, yeah, he backed off. So that's my depth perception joke. But I've never had a car accident. So, but yeah, I wouldn't want to ride motorcycles. I mean, I love the concept, but I'm also not going to jump out of airplanes. Not going to do that unless I have to. Unless that's the only option. I can't stand it when I see Pepper saying, I can't stand it when I see students put back. Oh yeah. Yeah, putting guitars in cars. Yes, Med 420. Exactly, Michael. Now, Justin's not doing that anymore. In fact, everybody in the camp quit. I never did, but it was funny because I would be around it, and I would get so hungry. And I'm like, I don't feel different, except I'm really hungry. So, yeah, that's the worst, Rick. I mean, getting back from a gig late at night. I mean, I had a band called Malachi, and it was just after I was in high school. You can take a sip. I'm totally fine with that. Cheers. And we would do these, we would go from Indianapolis, we'd go to Bloomington, we went down to Louisville, we'd go up to Chicago, did gigs all over the place, and we would play till midnight or past. And then you get home, you got to tear down the stage, and we drive home. And I mean, I would get home sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning. It was brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. I don't miss that at all. But it's so funny because in Malachi, I was the kid. I was 18 to 21, and everybody was in their late 20s. I was the only one that didn't have a career and didn't have a wife and didn't have, but I was such a good player that they wanted me. I was as good, they were all good players, and they really liked my playing. So what they did was they all had lives and wives. And so what they did was they went ahead and hired a crew so they wouldn't have to set. So they had a truck, we had a truck, and we had a guy that, some people that they would pay to set up and tear down. So they could just show up, do the gig, and leave. But I was like, yeah, but, and they were paying these people. I said, well, can you pay me to do it too? So I actually got like an extra $45 a night to go with the crew and hang out, set up, and do all that stuff, and then hang out afterwards while the band went home. So, because and I remember there were times where I was carrying a Rhodes 88 upstairs, flights of stairs. Just like, I should be in traction right now for some of the stuff that we did. Yeah, Telly gives you that country twang, exactly. So it's kind of hard, you can't really get that from a Strat. It's just something about it. And I used to, on my Tellys, I used to put 9s, really skinny strings, to even make it more spanky, sounding really thin sounding. But I decided I like the 10s on them better. I have a couple guitars I have 11s on. I do like to change them up a little bit. I just got, for that, you saw the Gibson 175 that I bought from my friend Paul Gable, who I bought from years ago, not a few years ago. I got some flat wound strings for that. I bought some really nice the Thomas Ingfield. What are they called? Anyway, I bought some of those. So I'm anxious to put those on and give those a try. And those will be flat wound and they should sound really good on the guitar. Okay. My band Get Uptown Country. Let's see. Don't think he actually answered. Oh, shoot. What did he say? Oh, Ab. What did I miss? Oh, Discord server. No, somebody mentioned that. Would that would be so we could all be on together and I could see all your faces or something like that? Is that right? I just would be afraid that would be even more distraction. It would be really hard for me to stay on point if I could hear you all and if I could see you all. And then I haven't seen AJ yet. Has AJ been around? Let's see, where's AJ? I will probably call him. He sent me his phone number. I'll probably call him and talk to because there were some issues on some of the worksheets he's doing. And I want to be able to post those minor things, but it takes some time. So who knew musicians were so fragile? Yeah, I know, right? Well, the deafened one here, it's not, I'm not deaf. Although sometimes I do think sounds are coming from over there when they're really coming from over there. If it's high pitched, I lost my high end hearing. So it's weird when I go back to Indiana and there's crickets out at night, or the frogs. I'm not sure which it is, or cicadas. If I lie on my right side with my my good ear to the pillow, I can't hear them. If I lie on this, that's when I noticed it. Freaked me out. I was like, oh man. But if I lie on this side, I could hear them. I was like, oh, that's so weird. Oh, AJ, okay, yeah. So I may call you later today. We could talk through some of those worksheets, okay? Because they're minor issues. We could do it here, but just Discord is voice chat. Oh, you can do Discord only. Okay, instead of YouTube. Because see, the thing about this is monetized, so I'm actually making $1 from doing this 2-hour lesson. But it actually generates a lot of views on my channel. So, Discord is for podcasts. Okay, it's easier to text, share pictures, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I imagine what'll happen if Discord gets really popular. It probably already is. I don't know. See, Roger taking off. Oh, good to talk to you, Roger. Are you there? Where did he go? Or did he just log in? Oh, there he is. Research time. I got to sign up. Thank you, Roger. Thank you for your email about my son. He did take that job. He's going to take the job at Northrop. He kind of already said yes, so he's afraid to say no to him at this point, even though he's gotten other offers, better offers. But he's gonna. He really is interested in the defense industry. So, and then I can use Discord with. Okay, so maybe I'll do a little research on that. Okay, Ab, I'll look. I'll try to remember to do. Let me pull up. Let me do a new tab here, Discord. And then what I'll do is I'll do Discord, YouTube. So maybe I'll see some videos on integration. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, for gamers. Okay. I see. And not exclusively for gamers, but I get it. Okay. Oh, a question. Oh, I see. Any advice to avoid thumb pain practicing bar chords? Well, have you seen? I'm gonna call you Meme, Memulous Bratwurst. That's actually a really great handle, Memulous Bratwurst. I'll send you the link to. Let's see where. By the way, thank you guys for buying stuff on Amazon. I see that you guys are purchasing because I'm making a little bit of money from that. It's as much as 5% of your purchase. Not always, depends on what you're purchasing, but as much as. So this video, that darn five, I may address some of that, but there's lots. On this video about playing the F bar chord, I give you different things that you can do. Some of it's alternative F chords that don't require a bar. That's not what we're talking about here. But some of the things like one of my teachers had, like instead of trying to be flat like this, you can turn to the side of your finger here, this part of your finger, and you can curve your finger a little bit at that point. The goal, the key is the reason your thumb's hurting is you're squeezing too tight. Okay. And there may be another reason I'll address in a second, but the goal is to get your fingers close to the fret without going on top of the fret. It's maybe to change some techniques a little bit, maybe change your thumb position. Your thumb should be pretty much like, if you're going to bar the first fret, your thumb should be about behind the second fret. It shouldn't be back on the first fret, because then it'll be too tough to reach these fingers out. So it should be pretty much in the middle of where your hand's going to be, like this. If you can see that. But then the better you get at it, and you may have to lower your strings, you may have to lower your action, that will help. You may have to, you could have a tech lower your fret action down here. You don't want it to be so low it buzzes, but just a little bit. Lighter strings will make it easier to push down. So all these different things you can do to make it easier to push down. The other thing that a common trick that you can do, you can tune your guitar down a half step and put a capo on the first fret, and now that's standard tuning. So this would be an E chord, this would be your F chord. Right now that's F sharp because I'm standard tuning capo. But now the strings are at fret height and not at. I wish I had thought of this tip. I don't think I mentioned this tip in that. I wish I had. Somebody mentioned it in there, and I had done that. I did that with my 12 string. A lot of people tune their 12 string down a half step or even a whole step, and then they'll capo at the first or second string or fret. And that will lower the string level, and then you won't have to push so hard. The softer you can push down, then your thumb won't be the issue. Now, the second issue that could be causing your thumb to be pain is I get thumb pain whenever I play mandolin. Whenever I play mandolin, because the mandolin neck is so small that it's like someone with a sharp elbow jabbing you with an elbow. It's like getting that right there. So if you have what's called a V-shaped neck, if your neck, I don't really have any guitars. I don't like V-shaped necks. Back in the day, like some Fenders have kind of V-shaped necks. Literally is kind of like if you were to look at the neck this way, this is very round. It's almost perfect round, but it would literally come to a point at some point, not real sharp point, but a point. And if that's hitting your thumb, that hurts. So, okay, more questions. Let's see. Boy, we're at 2 hours already, but I said, ask me anything. Okay. Is there one above that, Kathy? Question by, okay. Memeless. Okay. Best wishes to yourself. Oh, thanks. Yes, Roger, I will. I actually talked to him about that already. Oh, let's see. We could also look at Jam Kazam. Yeah, no, Jam. You mentioned that before, I think, Bruce. And that one, it's audio only. Interesting. Okay. You have you have another chord vids? Oh, I mentioned that in other chord vids. Probably have, huh? Can you buy the copyright to a song, Matthew? That's a weird one. Yes, Paul McCartney bought. Well, for example, Peter. What was his name? Peter. It was somebody from Australia, a businessman from Australia, and he's in all the Beatle books. I can't think of his name, but he's the guy that bought the Beatles catalog, and he didn't like Paul, and he would not sell it to him. So he technically owned not the masters, but he owned the publishing. So a song has two parts to it. It has writers and publishers. And technically, you should not be able to sell the writer's share to a song. You can license a song. So, for example, I get license money all the time. Because I have songs that they want to use in a TV show or a movie, or on even doing a cover. And so what they'll do is they'll reach out to you. They say, we want a license. Here's how much we're going to pay if you sign off. And they don't own it. They just have the right to use it in that video, and they still have to pay. There'll still be royalties based on it. So that is technically, that's generally covers everything. To buy someone's copyright, Paul McCartney actually went out and bought Buddy Holly's publishing, because you can sell your publishing, but you can't sell your writers. So I don't think you could ever own a song outright. If like a Beatles song, you could never probably own it outright, but you could feasibly. And Michael Jackson, that guy Peter in Australia sold it to Michael Jackson, and that really ticked off Paul. And then Michael Jackson, I guess the state kind of went bankrupt or something, so Sony owns it now, because Sony owns Michael Jackson. So I'm not sure of all the latest on all that, but Epiphone Les Pauls aren't bad. But yeah, so that was, let's see, which is up here. So you asked, yeah, so you were asking if you could buy a copyright. Yeah, and so more than anything, you can license. If you want to cover a song, say you want to do a cover of Yesterday by the Beatles, there's a company called Harry Fox. It's pretty much will issue permissions for every song, and so you pay them, and then they pay the Beatles. Or if you do a cover of one of my songs on YouTube, technically you're supposed to go through Harry Fox. If you put a song up on streaming or whatever, if you sell it, you're supposed to pay, but it's not very much. I think it's like $90 per 1,000 units or something like that. And so then that gets all split between everybody. Oh, sorry, AB. Yes. So buying the copyright song. Now, some people, I've never done it because I really don't like losing my copyrights, but there are some people that write license-free music. And there are libraries that'll pay somebody $200 to create a piece of music that library company can use it up and sell it and resell it and package it and all they want. And the guy that wrote it and created it and only got $200. I just, and I know there are people desperate to make a living, but I'm really opposed to that kind of thing. And a lot of those kind of songs end up replacing stuff that I've done. And then I can't make money in the business, on TV shows. Discovery just went through that whole thing right now. The end of last year, they were saying they were going to do that with all their shows. And I have a lot of music on Discovery, but the thing is, the companies that I write for, I don't write for Discovery. I'm writing for the production companies and that create shows for Discovery. And they said, yeah, we're not changing the music. So Discovery kind of had to, they were like, yeah, you can do what you want on productions that you produce, but on our thing, because the production company I write for, I get to keep my writers, but they get the publishing. That's standard for television. TV composers, all those people, they write music for TV. If they're writing music for the show, you don't get to keep your publishing. And I write with someone else for these shows. And Jim was on a couple of days ago. He's the guy. We write together. We split the writers 50-50, and then the production company gets 100% of the publishing. So for every dollar I make, they make $2, which is good. I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that arrangement, because the people that are hiring me and promoting my songs are making more money than I am. And so they want to promote them like crazy because they make a lot of money and I make half of a lot of money. So, relative a lot of money. But when Discovery came along and said, yeah, we're gonna do license-free music, so we don't have to pay BMI and ASCAP anymore. These production companies all said, yeah, well, that's good for your shows, but we're not doing it because we're all making a lot of money off of the back end on these things. So that's kind of put a kibosh on that. But ultimately, it probably is going to go that way. Hopefully not, but it may. Anytime these companies try to do that kind of thing, they can't get away with it, and then eventually they try to find a way around. But not Peter Asher. I know Peter Asher, though. I met Peter Asher and I played with him like a couple Christmases ago for a Christmas party. I played guitar for not Christopher Guest. Who's the bass player from Spinal Tap? Dang it. Shoot. Anyway, he does a Christmas thing every year, and I played guitar subbed for Steve Lukather one year, which was pretty darn cool. But it was like it was the guy with the beard on bass. But my friend CJ got me the gig. CJ is one of my favorite musicians to hang out with. He's got so many great stories. I could just tell CJ stories. Some of them are inappropriate though. So really good. So the long answer is really very difficult to buy a copyright to a song. You could ultimately buy the publishing to a song. A lot of people start publishing companies and they publish a bunch of songwriters and just keep signing songs up, hoping that they'll have a hit with somebody. But that's kind of cheesy because they're not really they don't really have the power to do something. I'm going to sign a publishing deal soon, but it will be probably an administration deal because there's certain monies that I can't collect myself. There's certain monies that I can't collect myself overseas that only a major publisher can collect for me. So that's why I have to sign an admin deal. And they only take 15% of publishing. It's not like they take half. A sub-publishing deal is typically like you might take half. But if they take half of your publishing, they're usually going to give you a major advance. But if they give you a big advance, like $50,000 or $200,000 or something like that, then then you get no publishing until they're paid back. So I have no interest in doing that. In fact, when I talked to the company about doing the sub-publishing deal, the licensing deal, the admin deal, they said, oh, so what advance do you want? I said, I don't need an advance. And they go, oh, well, let's make this super easy. So I'm hoping it happens soon. I just had the meeting a while ago, and then all this went down. So it's kind of all changed. But Peter Asher, yeah, he did his big hit. Peter Asher it's not Peter Asher. And I even asked Peter if he still had his family still had the house that he grew up in, because that's where Paul McCartney lived during Beatlemania. Paul McCartney was dating Jane Asher, which was Peter Asher's sister. She was a famous actress at the time. And he lived up in the attic. There were 2 bedrooms up in the attic, I think. Yes, because Peter confirmed this. And there were 2 bedrooms, and one was Peter's and one was Paul's. And Peter's parents told Peter, hitch your wagon to this guy. He's a rising star. And of course, they were 100% right. But Paul loved living with the Ashers because I think both of Peter's parents were doctors. And it was just a very different, very upper middle class household. They lived in one of those kind of like, they might have, I don't know if it was in Holland Street or that neighborhood, but the house was, as I heard it kind of described in the book, it sounded like maybe like a Mary Poppins type house, that kind of thing. Multi-floors. And so Paul, they would play games every night. They would play, I don't know, probably Scrabble, things like that, word games, and Paul loved that. But it wasn't Peter Asher. That's not I can't remember. Whoever owned Northern Songs was the guy that not stole their music, but and it was probably, he was great at discovering the Beatles, but he was lousy at business. Really, he sold the rights for merchandising to the Beatles. For all they had to do was pay a penny for everything that they like, for a T-shirt or a poster, and that was, now, to be honest, that sounds stupid. Who was everybody knows his name, and I can't think. Oh, somebody's saying it right now, yelling at me. With Tom, you get entertained as well. Oh yeah, Marty Schwartz. Yeah, I know Marty at your guitar jam. Yeah. Harry Shearer. Thank you. I played guitar for Harry Shearer's Christmas party. He's such a nice guy. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I know. I'm sorry about the questions. Oh my gosh, I'm losing them. I lose them. Ab, did you ask a question way back when? Yes. Okay. So I just saw that you can do that. Like Ab, way back, did you ask? Well, you can re-ask it. And it's amazing how fast this. Noodling while watching. What's 009? What's 009? Like if I played this? I don't know. That one was I showed you guys the other day. That was the James Bond chord. I played it wrong for years though. Question from David. Yeah, I don't know where that would resolve. I mean, that's kind of like with the A string. I mean, if you didn't have the A string, if you played, that's basically be kind of an E, flat 9. So this is the 5, the B, flat 9 F, flat 5, the B flat, and another E or an E. You can resolve that to resolve that to A major 7 or A major. That would work. Anytime you got an E altered chord is going to probably want to go to the 1 chord. Let's see. Yeah, Justin Guitars is much more organized than I am. He's great for that. He's got 1 million viewers. I mean, he totally deserves it, and literally makes a full-time job out of it. I did get a shout out by him, and I think that's helped me a lot. I'm not sure where he shouted out, but I started getting messages saying, "Yeah, I recommended," or maybe it was just something that people were watching Justin guitar videos, and then my YouTube recommended me. That could be what happened. But it was kind of, most of my views come from YouTube recommending my videos, which tells me that if YouTube stopped recommending my videos, no one would be here. Let's see. Let's see, Robin. When I was younger, I was really dumb and thought it was a good idea to skip the basics and maybe put up my guitar away and gather dust. I'm thinking about starting to learn from the basics. Yeah, and we've been kind of touching about the basics. I'm getting a lot of requests to do a video about changing chords faster, like open chords. So I have to kind of formulate a concept for that. I'd love to have like 5 or 7 tips for changing chord faster. And so I have talked about similar things, but I haven't specifically targeted that one issue. Also, I've told you before, I want to do a talk about hands. I do have a bunch of hand exercises that I do. Oh, also, what episode, Kathy, was it that I did the tinnitus thing? That freaked you out, didn't it? Was that cool or what? I mean, it was kind of sad and amazing at the same time. It's like, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, so, you know, I don't know if you're a Simpsons fan, but there's a lot of times where Homer like gets excited and then because he does something happens good and then immediately something bad happens and it's like, woohoo, don't one of those moments, you know. And I was doing the Maranatha clinics and we were in St. Louis. I was doing a St. Louis clinic and the band went down to the St. Louis Arch and we're down at the Arch and there was a plaque or there was somebody that was a story or something. And we're like literally leaning up against the arch looking at it. It's really cool if you lean up against it and look. It's kind of, overwhelming. And it was a story about a guy that parachuted and landed on the arch. Like he did one of those and landed on the arch. And then he fell to his death. Like I'm laughing, but it's like, it was totally a Homer, woohoo, dope kind of moment. And I said that. And the bass player just died. He was like literally on the ground rolling. He thought it was the funniest thing. So but the tinnitus thing that I showed you guys the other day, yeah, it was 2 episodes ago, day before yesterday. Okay. Tom, how do independent artists who aren't signed or don't have CD protect their music? Just putting it on YouTube. Technically, technically your song is copyrighted the minute you create it. But proving that it's your song and proving that if you got sued in court and you didn't have any proof of it. Generally, when I'm working with major artists, that's kind of their concern. With my music, when I'm working for TV and stuff, they take care of all that stuff. So I don't really do that, but you could do what's called a poor man's copyright, which you could do the collective works, in this case, like the collective works of Tom Strahle, Volume 7, and put 50 songs on a CD and then mail it to yourself. A certified letter and don't open it. I've probably still got some packed away somewhere for things I did way a long time ago. And they're probably on cassettes and probably completely deteriorated. The other thing is, and people are really afraid of having their music ripped off, but music there's so many things that are very, very similar. It would be almost hard to say that you wrote something that was completely original anyway. But then if you want to register with the Copyright Office, you can do that. There is a URL and and I've done this. And same thing. No LegalZoom. You don't want that here. You can just go. You don't need to go through a LegalZoom. You can do it directly through. So it's copyright.gov. And I spelled copyright wrong. That's funny. Copy. So you could totally go and do it here. And same thing. You can do a whole album in one copyright. So you only have to pay once. You don't have to register each song individually. It's basically so if there's a lawsuit, you can go, okay, here's our sealed records, boom, and they bring it, and it's suing and being sued, that's normally going to happen at the higher levels. Would I sue somebody if they stole something of mine? I probably already had stuff of mine stolen, no doubt. There's so much stuff. I've written songs. There was some producers in London that I wrote like 150 songs with, and I got tired of checking up to see if they ever released any of them because they would produce a lot of different artists. And a lot of times I could come up with a guitar thing that they could go, yeah, we like this guitar part, but we want it on keyboard. So they have a keyboard player for it. And then they just say, okay, we're not going to give him any money because he didn't write it. And it's like, no, I wrote it, but they just forget. And I hear it and I don't recognize it because it's not my guitar. That actually happened. I'm tired. I'm touching my face, people. Are you not paying attention? So I've written a lot of songs with this guy named Sam Hook. We wrote first song we ever wrote together was Home to Mama. First song. He gets on a Bieber record. Crazy. He would say we've written 70 songs together. I can't imagine it's that many, but maybe 50. We've got a song coming out on the new Benny Main record, but I'm not going to recommend it. I wrote the music and not the words. And so the words are like, oh my gosh, they sent me a copy of it. And I'm like, holy cow, but it's coming out. It's supposed to be out this month, I think, but I don't know if but he's kind of like a Post Malone character. So anyway, that song's coming out. But Sam and I, wrote these bunch of songs and then we stopped working together just for different reasons. And these producers in London, I hadn't heard from a while. And I've told this story before. Yeah, lawsuits are expensive. And Joe, if I talk to Joe DeBlasi about his lawsuit with that he was thinking about doing against when you're suing someone that's got deep pockets, it's really expensive. But he was going to sue Pink Floyd. But so these producers, I hadn't worked with them in a while, but I've written like 150 songs with them, and some of them came out on records. Made a little bit of money, mostly European artists, not a lot of money. And they sent me they sent me an MP. Sorry, they sent me an email with an MP3, and they said, "Hey, could you replace the guitars in this?" And I didn't even listen to the song. I just was like, no, because I know what they want me to do. These young producers, they just, they want me to replace it. And I said, well, who's the guitar player? Who's the guitar player? And they go, well, we don't know. I said, but yeah, it's his song. He goes, oh, we're going to give you writers. And yeah, but are you going to give him writers? You're trying to use me to strip his copyright. I'm not going to do that. And I might have been tempted if they were a client that typically paid me $5,000 or $10,000 to do a session or something like that. But even then I would be like, yeah, no, and I have been in those situations. And I've said, no, I won't do that. It's not the ethical thing to do. This is somebody else's song. I'm not going to replay it so you can strip them of or just because you don't want to do the research to find out who they are to give them copyrights. That was really probably the issue. I don't think they were trying to steal it as much as they just didn't want. And they're like, oh no, but we know we're going to give you copyrights. I'm like, no, but that's not they're going to give me publishing, which is the producer way of, everybody take a sip, kind of the producer way of saying, give you writer's share. They'll say, oh, we'll give you publishing. So, because when you get publishing, you get writers, it's the same thing. So if you have 10% of the publishing, you have 10% of the writers. And that was typical for these producers. I would get 10%, which is really, really low, but I was trying to help them out because they were young kids. And I wasn't sending them the stellar stuff that I was coming up with. That stuff would go to Bieber's camp. So my favorite hooks I would send to Bieber or somebody else, and maybe Sam. And so anyway, these are confessions right here. Okay, Kathy, you taking off? No worries. We're good. So I said, okay, let me listen to this thing because they want me, and I hit click play on the MP3. It was my guitars. They are trying to strip my copyright away from me and have me replay it. And I just said, guys, that's me. And they said, that's you? And I said, yeah. And they said, oh, can you send us the guitar file without the vocals? Because really what they wanted to do was they wanted the guitar without the vocals because they wanted to replace the vocals. I'm saying, yeah, but you're going to have to give publishing to the guy that you got the track from, who wrote the vocal on top. No, because he won't, because I said, no, but you got it from him. You can't just take, it's like, so there's some really weird, sketchy things that happens in the business. I guess someone has already done a heavy metal album called Tonight, Spinal Tap, maybe. Yeah. Let's see, kudos to USP, very much underappreciated. What's USP? Sorry. Yeah. Oh, you found, okay. Like 6-7 years ago. Yeah. And you may have been the one that asked me to say, hey, you should do a video for older beginners. I know it was somebody who was normally like one of my Dadgad fans. Touch the face again. Yeah. Let's see. Late to the party. Federal court copyright litigation is really expensive. Yeah. Very, very, very expensive. Yeah. You you would definitely have to have a really good case, and you probably have to have a lawyer that was willing to work pro bono for a percentage of the payout. It's really ticking me off though, these juries that are giving 25 million to like the Marvin Gaye estate. They've got tons of money. They don't need more money, and they're suing for stupid stuff. Yeah. Oh, my subscribers gone up about 1,100 since I started doing this. You're right, Bruce. I blew through 70,000 since I started doing this. So it's been very good. My view count's way up too. What do you think about the bass? I love playing bass. Bass is great. Bass is another instrument, like a 4-string bass. If you're having trouble with guitar and playing bar chords and things like that, bass is generally 99% of the time you're playing one note. So if you're having trouble with chords or bars, play bass. And not only that, like I know all these churches, they've got tons of guitar players, but they need bass players. There are a lot of bands that have, everybody wants to play. Paul McCartney was a guitar player. It's like, oh, okay, I'll play bass because nobody else is going to play bass. I mean, he became one of the best rock bass players of all time. So I'm trying to get to, let me see if I can be faster with Kathy, no worries. Thank you so much for helping out. And I'm at 226, so I gotta wrap up here in a second. But I play a lot of bass. I do a lot of bass for games and stuff like that. United States Postal Service. Oh, UPS. Oh, USPS. What do I think about them? Michael Jackson. That was a reference to an early for shipping guitars. I mean, if that's what your question is in reference to, I'm trying to see if there's a previous. Oh, as far as shipping. Oh, as far as the U.S. Postal Service, yeah, you can for copyrights, you can. I think it's registered mail to yourself, and then you have to sign for it when it shows up. And then the key is don't open the package. It'll be sealed. Do not open it. If you have to go to court, you can take it to court with you. It's called a poor man's copyright. Don't know if I've never heard of it being used in court. I've never heard of it working or not working. No, wanted to know what that stood for. USPS. Oh, who posted USPS? Oh, okay. Somebody posted. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, pro bono is rare to find. Yeah, Peter, you're right. Yeah, well, and that's my friend Joe. He was having to pay. I think it was costing him. I really don't want to say because he told me in private, so it may not be something he wants to say, but it was a lot of money per hour kind of thing. So, because he was having to work with several different lawyers, and in Europe they can't, like in England, they can't do pro bono work. They won't do it. Here they will if they think there's a for sure. I was on a jury for a trial like that, and it was a frivolous lawsuit, and it was so fun to see the lawyer's face when he lost. It was awesome. Yes, tens of thousands of dollars easily. Tom, for 1 million subscribers. I don't know if I'm going to get to this 1 million subscribers. I've said this before, though. When I get the plaque for 100,000, it's going to go up probably right there. I'm going to put it in here somewhere, probably behind me, or maybe between these up there or something. I don't know. It will be in here. Sorry, my eye itches, my blind eye. So if you were wondering which eye I can't see out of. But yeah, because I've done sessions that were literally 3-hour sessions, and the record went on to win a Grammy or be nominated for a Grammy or something like that. And so I could send off to the Grammy whatever and get a certificate that I could frame and put on my wall. And it's like you have to pay for all this, and I just don't care. I'm not trying to. I'm by myself here. I'm not trying to impress anybody. So, but the YouTube thing, getting to 100,000, that would represents a ton of work. Doing this every day, which is a labor of love, clearly. But we will get to 100K, that's for sure. And I mean, maybe sooner than later. I was thinking maybe in 2 years. If I keep doing this, it'll happen sooner. But obviously, we're going to have to stop doing this at some point because we'll be able to go outside and I won't have an audience. So once we get to that point, then we're in LA. We're supposed to everything's staying closed until May 15th. So we'll see if that indeed stays true. So that means I may go to May 15th. It's another 30 days plus. But if we do that, yeah, so I could easily see 75,000 subscribers by the end of May. I think it's it's on that trajectory. Yeah, YouTube is weird. It definitely slowed down though. I was averaging 2 to 3,000 subscribers a month, and then it dropped down to 1,000 a month before I started doing this. So, God bless you, Rick. Take off. You're taking off. Yeah, intellectual property litigation. It's so tough. Peter, sound like you know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you should still probably copyright. I mean, like I said, I don't do any of that because I'm working with people that are probably, they're doing it on their end. There was a kid that released a song that was basically Home to Mama, but he changed the melody and lyrics, but he basically took my guitar and played the exact. I could have sued, but I mean, he literally had 10,000 views or something. That wasn't enough for me to. If it had been a hit, see, that's where it gets to be worth it. If it's a song, and that's why Ed Sheeran got sued. That's why Robin Thicke got sued. That's why Katy Perry got sued, because they were somebody's. Because there was a lot of money made by them, and they're also not sympathetic. I want to play. What's the opposite? Defendants. They're not sympathetic defendants. Recip. Let's see. Ed. Well, out for a bike ride. Good. Go back. I got to go for a walk or something here in a minute. I think Beth took off though. I think she's just going for a ride. Wants to get out of the house. Let's see. Underrated. You deserve way more sub. Thank you for that. We're getting there. We're getting there. This is my evening every day from 8 p.m. So Frankie, that's right. You're in Holland. So yeah, and you're welcome to have a guitar while I talk and just practice. I should probably do that. We didn't do warm-ups. But we're going, yeah, Dennis is in the same place. Yeah, go sit in your backyard. I'm going to take off now. I'll keep the chat up for a while. Tomorrow we're going to get back on chord theory, but I'm probably going to talk about, I'm going to put off ninth chords and maybe the next day. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about suspended chords. Okay. So we'll talk about that. And then we may just like do it with C chord or something like that, so we can keep it real simple. Okay. Anyway, God bless you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Happy Easter. Have a good day. Get out in the nature. Be one with nature. Okay.